On page 3 is, council's given a copy of this in their last packet. It's after the meeting on the 7th, January 7th over at the college. These are the recommendations that the analyst that developed the water rate for us. These are his recommendations on winter averaging, some of the different issues that were brought up in the meeting. Just things to keep in mind as we walk on through the issue. If y'all want a few minutes to read it, I'd be happy for y'all to do that. If y'all want to wait and digest it later. Honestly, about 2 minutes to read it would probably be a good idea. I think it's 2 pages long. If everybody's had a chance to read it, if you look at the last part, there's different portions that apply to different portions of what we're going to be speaking to tonight, and we can discuss each one as we move forward through the agenda. The page directly after that is going to be the current rate that we're under. It was adopted by council, and then the following 3 pages should be 4 pages should be what different council members have suggested. And kind of give you an opportunity to find a baseline. If there's anything that you want to discuss, anything that you don't understand, they're looking for a recommendation on which way to go and where to really go from here.
I'd like to make a comment about that.
Sure.
I felt very put upon when I was asked to right then and there to come up with a suggestion, not having had any time to prepare or think through what might have been done, and I tried to incorporate some of the ideas that were there, but I just don't think it was fair to be put on the spot like that and to say, come up, what is your recommendation? Because I didn't feel that was my position or my job.
Okay. That being said, we have an opportunity here to look at the different rates, come up with an idea of how y'all would like to move forward and what y'all would think would be probably the best baseline to consider. You have the percentages under the percentage increase for each one, and the dollar increase of what's expected over the month, as well as the average over the 30-day period. Yes, sir.
Can I interrupt you a minute?
Sure.
State what you stated about the first page of the rate.
The first page of the rate,
Yes.
it's supposed to be the current rate that we're under, sir.
And which is that?
That was adopted back at the start of the fiscal year,
October 2013.
October 1st.
We're supposed to be paying $32 minimum on water and $27 minimum on sewer?
No,
No, that was last
40,
year.
4024
All right.
is your minimum on water, 2287 is going to be your minimum on sewer. So it actually went down on sewer, but it actually went up on water. And it shows a percentage of increase and a dollar increase directly below it, as well as what the 30-day increase is, what you'd be paying per day.
This is-
But that's what it was, and this is what it
This
is.
is previous. Really
So this first page is the October 1, 2012 to the October 1, 2013?
Are you talking about the upper bracket?
Yes, is that what we're,
The upper bracket's supposed to be what we were under.
as of, that was the 1 October 2012 raise, and this is the 1 October 2013 increase?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Bramer, you noted on, with your analysis that the rate on the existing, would have been last year's, the 10,000, you had 265 and 319, those are, it should be 188 on the 10,000 and 265 on the
Which
20,000.
ones are you referring to?
On the top of the last year's water rates, when you did an analysis.
For the 188 and the 265?
The 188 and 165 need to be shifted over one column to be absolutely correct. So the numbers that you get as you analyze are a little skewed from that.
Well, actually, they're not shifted. The reason they're not shifted over is because the one comparison in the previous stuff did a 15,000. So we took it and shifted it over because there was a 15,000, so.
You're right, and the 15,000 was when we had different council members making different suggestions.
So, right, and that's
So
why we're
that's a
showing
bracket.
that was an error with the way they had
Okay.
calculated that.
Okay,
Right.
all right.
Okay.
But the actual rate in the ordinance, at 10,000, that rate is 188, and at 20,000, it is 265 in the old ordinance, and then starting at 30,000, it is 319.
Right. I guess what I need to explain in these, the calculations should be correct. The way you're seeing it, the way the spreadsheet is set up is at 10,000, it shows the number that's less.
It's everything,
Yeah.
everything under that amount, once you.
Right, once you go 10,001.
And one, you're already at the next rate.
You're
Right,
you're
you're at the
go to
next rate.
rate.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
I guess the only question I'd have is, okay, wait a minute, so we've got,
At the,
yeah, down at the bottom is what I was looking for.
okay. You're looking for who suggested what?
Well, no, I'm just looking for how each of those plans impacts
Yeah.
what our planned revenue was for the year, right?
Sure, right.
Because that's what you gotta find out.
Right, and and the variables on the councilman's plans
Yeah.
are in the shaded areas, and the variables, the budget is pretty well, it's 96 or 97% fixed, just with,
Right.
salaries, vehicles, equipment, and things like that. The only things that are variable when they put together this rate table were the depreciation amount and the amount of revenue that we could acquire from impact fees and tap fees.
Right.
So each council member was asked at that meeting to where they would take that budget to do that and see how that would affect the overall budget, because it automatically calculates the new rate based on that income and that, with depreciation acting as an expense.
Right, I guess the question I've got is the rate you guys came up with, you need the required 7% to hit the budget? I guess what I don't see is how each of these projections is gonna impact the city budget, because that's what, I mean, we have to know that kind of too, right?
Each one of these projections that council came up with,
Yeah.
it
Is all
came down,
pretty neutral?
it came down to the same bottom dollar.
Okay, all right.
It's just where is the impact going to be placed?
Oh,
Is the impact
okay.
going to be placed on the base rate and on our 7,000 to 10,000 residential customers? Or is it going to be spread out and distributed evenly?
Right.
Before we go, I guess there's, to me, the first factor is this going to be revenue driven or cost basis? It sounds like it's cost based driven.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does that include what kind of net profit for future growth? that were zero, okay?
The only thing suggested by our auditor was to to start a depreciation fund. And she threw out a number, there's, I believe, in the 265 range. The council ended up bringing it down to 94.5 for a depreciation fund to start working on having some type of reserve in our enterprise fund. So as far as any revenue generated or having any type of reserve, that would be shown. Well, it won't be shown
In the
on the first
depreciation
one.
value, right?
Sorry?
Just in the depreciation value.
It'll be shown in the depreciation value.
Right. So some of these don't have any.
Some have been zeroed out.
Right.
Currently, it's at 94,500. So if you'll see zeros in the first three, and then when you get to the fourth one, the 94.5 is still there. And that's the only type of cushion or revenue or reserve that we have placed on that fund.
Frank,
Yes, sir.
right on this first sheet, this 40, 24, and 22, 87, this is what, 6311 is what the water bill costs if you don't use the drop, right?
Just a second, sir, let me get there.
Yes. That first column left of the blackout column.
Yeah,
That's it. If you don't use anything, that's your base rate.
6311, yes, sir, that's your base bill. If you just look at the meter in the ground and you don't touch anything, don't open a tap, just the house is vacant, but you don't turn off your water, that would be your base cost.
Well, is this compared to any other cities outside?
It is. If you look on the fifth page, what I included, past Alderman Moore's recommendation, it has the 4 cities. And if you look at the shading, this was in color, but the printer at City Hall is black and white. Of course, white is the highest as far as the highest rate. The darkest shaded is 4th highest, which would be the least expensive. And it shows where we fall in relationship to Van Alstyne, Anna, Howe, and Melissa under our current rate. So just by going off shading, Van Alstyne is the highest on the base rate, but that's just looking at the meter, not consuming any water. But yet if you go to the 5,000 to 20,000 range, which is where most of our customers are going to be, we're 3rd highest. And then from 30,000 to 60,000, we're 2nd highest. But the only place that we're the highest is where the base meter charge is considered, which is not consuming any water. So once you consume, we're not the highest.
Oh, okay.
We're not the highest.
So what you saying is?
I'm gonna disagree with that.
Really?
That's
Yeah.
what I was thinking.
My chart shows that we're 2nd highest on this 5/8 3/4 once we go above, well, the top 4, especially if you're just considering the cities, our 4 cities are the highest in the North Texas. But then once you go above, about 22,000, the only one that's a higher rate than us is Howe.
So that makes us not the highest.
Yeah, not the highest, but
We're looking at the 3 other cities that we have similar debt to that have that water line in place. 2 of them are taken from it, 2 of us are not.
Which one of these lines is showing?
So on the lower end, the 5 to 20,000, we're, the only municipality that's lower than us is Anna. And nobody can get underneath Anna because Anna has a higher population and they're able to flatten out their rate more so than we could possibly do.
Well, on this
Three
chart he
times.
got here is Sherman.
Sherman's down here. There's others.
Okay, that means
Yes, sir.
cheaper, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's already been proven. I live, myself, my brother, lives in Sherman, I live down here. And his water bill is always about $40 cheaper than mine.
And you're talking about an apple and orange, sir.
Yeah.
You're talking about Sherman's a very nice sized city, is able to take their water rates and all of their expenses and flatten it out over a much larger customer base.
So that's the
So-
reason.
Yeah.
So if you look at Sherman, you look at Frisco, McKinney, anybody, they're going to be considerably lower because they have a larger customer base. But if you're looking at cities that are very similar to us in size and scope.
Gunner's a
their
good
debt,
bit cheaper than us.
Gunner may or may not be cheaper than us. But the thing about it is, Gunner doesn't have this water line that we're paying for.
And I guess that's what this is the crux of the situation. We're talking about the cost basis. I'd like to see what the actual costs are and break down and see how that's distributed, because why are we so far out, is Van Alstyne these 4 cities?
Mhm.
What did we do wrong so badly
We
that
didn't.
drove
I mean,
the costs up so high?
We're planning for growth,
Yeah,
but
but
Can I address that?
Sure.
just let me finish here. We're planning for, there's something there that doesn't seem right, because no one's experienced growth like Frisco has in the last 15 years.
Okay.
And they're pretty cheap.
McKinney hadn't experienced the growth that Frisco has?
But they've done some bad planning, and they're gonna experience some cost
Of course,
increases.
but they're
no,
much
they
older
haven't.
city than Frisco is. too.
For the differential size for where they were to where they're at, no, they haven't experienced that same kind of growth. But yet they managed to keep the cost down. I don't know why, and I don't know why our costs are so high. I guess it's coming back to that. What are these costs? I'd like to see what the costs are that are involved. I just don't want to take and accept that these costs, I guess.
You have the spreadsheet, right?
And we're being compared to 2 towns that are 3 times bigger than we are,
Right.
which is
And we're-
Anna
and we're
and
very-
Melissa,
And we're very competitive with it.
not our size.
Right. The costs are in the budget, or budget line items are what make up the cost. So if you go to if you have the spread, the worksheet, the rate worksheet that, you pulled all the data from?
Yeah, I was only given that one portion.
Oh, okay.
That was it.
Well, on the backside, there's a line item to develop the water costs and to develop the sewer costs. There's a line item that includes every line item, and I've got it here,
Okay.
but it goes through, salaries, overtime, payroll taxes, health insurance, vehicle supply, fuel, electricity.
But we're not just paying for just that, for this, right?
No, we're paying debt, we're paying
Yeah, yeah,
for water line upgrades and maintenance.
In addition to all the regular stuff, there's a CGMA take or pay, there's a dark water line lease payment, there's machinery and equipment, capitalized items, everything that goes into building the budget, which ends up being total, on the water side of $1.292 million, it's a line item by line item. And, during the budget workshops, Steve puts together his budget and sends it to Frank, and they present it, and here's all the items that are discussed. And then on the sewer side, I think it's about almost $800,000. So there's about a $2 million total cost of service for what, and then what this spreadsheet does is take those costs versus, and it averages out the rates based on the number of meters and the size of meters, and then proportions that equally to those, using the 3/4 as a base unit.
Okay.
For example, and he has the equivalency here, a 3/4 is an equivalency of 1. 1 inch is 2.5 times, 1.5 inches is 5 times, 2 inches 8 times, all the way down to a 10-inch meter, which is 115 times the base rate.
So that's how we come up with these drastically different meter rates?
That's how you calculate it.
That's how, well, it's
Because
just,
that's like way out of line for the state, the meter rate.
I mean,
At least North Texas it is.
He said he goes all over the state doing this rate.
I mean, this is.
Well, there wasn't anything over $600 for a high meter, for a high line.
I'm telling you what he told me. I mean, that's.
That may be, but that's, I'm just, for
Well,
going further.
Well, but also you have to be very aware of where those bigger meters are. If they're in Frisco with 150,000 people paying for them, the price comes way down. And if you're at a 3,000 person town with a 10-inch meter, basically you can feed the whole town with that. You don't have any of those here, but you have to, it's proportional based on.
Okay, let me back up a little bit, an ideology here. And maybe Steve can reckon. How much more does it cost to supply water through an 8-inch line versus an 8-inch meter versus a 3/4 inch meter? Is there any additional cost?
Yeah, actually, because I have to have the main support to
So
get
you
the
have to
water.
be able to supply the pressure, is that what you're saying?
I have to I have to maintain, to get 8 inches of water through a 8-inch water meter, I got to have at least a 10-inch pipe.
Okay. So where's the monthly additional cost that would warrant from a, what 40, what's the cost here? $40 to a $4,000 difference in that meter? I mean, does it really warrant that cost difference in that structure?
But, I mean, right here, I mean, the service connection on the water line for a 10-inch meter, I mean, and the biggest meter we have in town is 3-inch.
Okay, but the cost structure's there set
And
up.
it's $600 is the base rate.
Okay, which is what they're, on the high side, that's what they're charging for 8-inch plus in other parts of North Texas.
At the same time, you know, you gotta remember now, most of these water lines are 30 to 50 years old. So somewhere in there, I've got to do some type of depreciation for replacement.
Right.
If I just work off the fact that I'm basically taking this much water and I'm not putting anything back for replacement. I mean, cast iron pipes in the city are coming apart.
And every city has to do that.
Well, and as the AC pipes, and that's probably one of the most nightmares for any city in the United States. Every place I've ever been, AC's come apart. And you just can't base on having an equal rate that you're just gonna pay for what water comes through there. You gotta have some type of depreciation.
I'm confused with the word the depreciation, because that's, I'm
Or
not sure how we use it.
extraordinary money for
Okay.
replacements.
Extra monies that we're paying, we're not using it in an accounting term then?
No, using it as a capital fund.
Okay, all right, so basically, you've got a plan for reserve money aside.
Let's say
And I understand that every city does that.
It's not necessarily reserve, I mean, it's for capital improvement, for replacing lines, upgrading lines, repairs. Because
Okay.
most of the work that they're doing is chasing down repairs.
Okay,
if I had to replace that meter,
but what's
That
the
money has to come
ideology?
out.
I don't understand from the get-go how we came up with the meter rate differential here that's so incredibly
Well,
disproportionate.
When he
than
plugged,
anything
when he
else
plugged
around
in, when he started plugging in the debt and the expenditures for this fiscal year,
it. Right,
that's what it built out for him on the equivalency factor on a 5/8 or 3/4 inch meter, because that's our base rate. And it built it out based upon what he was talking about on an equivalency factor or
So,
fair
so what
share.
meter size do our meters really start to skew?
anything, well, they start
Anything above
skewing
2
it,
inch?
they start skewing at 2-inch.
That's what I thought. Anything above 2 inch, they start to get off the.
Starting at 2-inch.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
majority of our 2-inch are irrigation meters and meters over at the schools. And those, during the winter, the school district shuts those meters off, so they're not even paying that cost.
Well, they're paying the base rate.
No, sir.
No, they turn.
Oh, they
them
just
off.
turn off, I can understand that because it costs so much. But, and then they have to turn around and pay them, they have to turn it to pay it back on? We don't
No,
charge?
you just turn it back on.
Or is that just a friendly thing for the?
It's just a governmental entity, I mean, that's what you're doing. I mean, they're not going anywhere. They're not, they can't turn up, they can't up and say, I'm gonna sell a property, I'm gonna move to Frisco.
Gotcha.
The school district's there, their infrastructure's there, they're not going anywhere.
Okay.
So that's the difference in ideology on why
That
the school
makes sense.
district does what they do, as opposed to somebody that's going to come in, maybe rent for 6 months and pack up and leave.
But someone
Because-
like our HOA who's not going anywhere, we don't have that option, or do we?
We've never discussed that.
If you had an irrigation meter, I think she said they let you turn it off.
I'd say, 'cause
I mean, I've done mine.
That's what the school district came back
I
and
guess you
said,
probably
was,
could
can
do
we
that,
shut it
right?
off? Sure.
Yeah.
Well, you see, you've done yours, the house meter, just irrigation meter.
It's an irrigation meter.
Because a friend of mine said he was levied a fine for turning his house meter off.
well, by law, it can be.
When did that law come into?
Because that's damaging, you can damage the city property. The meter's not yours. You paid a deposit on that meter.
I know that, but if I got the same,
Huh?
I bought mine in 1964.
But I mean, that's what it is now.
But if it goes bad, who replaces it?
That's not what he said though.
I know what you, I
Well,
know,
that's what I'm
but,
saying.
But I mean, if you bought that meter and it goes bad, I'd charge you for that meter again. But I'm not gonna charge you because I'm operating it on my water
But you
system.
said, I didn't buy it. I did buy
Okay.
it.
At that time,
I
probably.
bought mine too, that's what I'm, you know.
But
I understand.
at present,
They go
it's
bad.
a deposit.
we're the ones that replace them.
So
And
what
for
you
me to
telling
replace
me
just the
is,
three-quarter-
If I got the same tool that Steve got, I can't really leave, go out there and turn my
You
water on.
shouldn't,
turn it
please
back
don't
on.
do that.
Huh?
Please don't do
It's
that.
actually, it's in the ordinance.
I've done it all the
I
time.
don't care if it's in order.
We don't wanna hear that.
You're gonna stop me if I'm gonna turn.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if water's pouring in your house, I mean, come on, guys, go.
Sure.
We'll go turn it in.
We have
an
people
emergency
that
on
have
the
cut
call
locks
number
off,
for
and go
that.
out there and crank them open.
You missed what I said. If I got water running my house, I'm turning the meter off.
Well, I am.
And that's understandable, but
But
as a practice,
Well,
you
now, what
can't,
did you say you charge, Frank, to do that? Did you say you charge to turn it off and then cut it back on when you call the city?
for irrigation,
for leak
No,
and.
for
No,
leak.
no.
No, not even for a leak.
Well, I'm talking about, if something happens like James said in his house, if I go out there and turn it off and don't call y'all, you could give me a fine.
Well, most likely I'm not.
Huh?
I hadn't yet.
no, I mean, but it's
But
there.
you could.
It's considered-
Yeah.
it's
According to
considered-
ordinance,
it's
we're
considered,
supposed to.
it's considered city
Well,
property. I mean,
There's
that's
like
what
a lot of
it
other things, need
And
to
it-
use a little common sense.
If you're coming,
exactly.
if you're coming,
Right.
shutting the valve on, shutting the valve off, and something breaks or damages, it's our
It
responsibility.
doesn't take much to break a little ear off.
Oh, yeah, it's a little quarter turn, so I mean, it's.
And that, when you get in consideration, the meters that we're putting in is $185.
Well, I don't know for sure, but I know the meter that I've got. When did this ordinance coming up at? that you
It's
talking
been there since,
Every city I've ever been in had it.
Well, I'm talking, when y'all have it here?
I'd have to go back and look, but it's
It
old.
wasn't like it when we was on council, was it?
Not to my knowledge.
It just may not have been
Everybody
enforced.
Yeah, my guess is it is. I mean, that, most
It's been there
cities
for a
do it,
while.
nobody enforces that. If you got water running your house and you go out there and turn it off, as long as you don't tear up their meter, they're not gonna do anything.
Well, I got the same tool as Steve got, that's what I was talking
Oh,
about.
yeah.
I think what Steve's more pointing out is we've had people go out
And
and
then
manipulate the meter in a malicious way, break the meter,
Right.
and then come back wanting help when we find out you were disconnected.
goofing around
or-
with the meter.
Correct, and
Well,
broke
that's
it,
destroying the
broke the
city.
line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And per ordinance, if you remove a yellow cap that says don't touch it, it's locked for whatever reason, and you do, you're breaking the ordinance.
And that's most
what
of,
he's-
and most of that time, that, it's locked out then. And
When
that's,
you put a lock on it, I can't turn it back on.
but the people know how to take them off.
Take the lock off?
They'll take them off or take a hacksaw and cut the ears off.
They'll break it.
We pulled one
Battery
ear.
operated Dremel kit, are you kidding me?
Huh?
To answer,
Spinning an abrasive blade will cut
I mean,
But
anything.
then, but that's, there, we've had just in the last 6 months a lot.
Yeah, we've had one, we had to pull a meter and they still
Take a lock.
took a radiator hose, stuck it where the meter was and flowed water.
water
So we had to crimp the
jumpers.
line.
To answer Mr. Bramer's question though about this proportion, just looking rough, and I don't have the calculator in front of me, but it looks like it's based on flow volume, you know. A 2-inch meter is 8 times more efficient than a 3/4 inch. You can get about 20 gallons per minute out of that, and you can get just about 150, 160 out of a 2-inch. So it's probably flow proportional at this point. Although there are, like I said, there are 3 3-inch meters in the system. That's all there is. There's only 33 meters that were read in
Yeah, the
the
scary
2-inch
part-
size. So, I mean, where we start going disproportional with the rest of the Metroplex because of the small city, it really, there are no funds on that. Now, the option to shut down the school, the irrigation meters in the summertime, or in the wintertime for the school, actually decreases, this revenue model is based on 12 months of base service.
Right.
So we're actually cutting into the water budget by allowing a no reading and shutting it off purpose. So, you know, to be more accurate and to get that, you'd have to show months of inactivity, and then that just has the process of raising everybody else's rates. So you have, you know,
But how come Dr. Spees then wrote the letter that he wrote, that I read at the council meeting, where he said that, you know, it affected him tremendously with this increase, and that he was going to have to cut funds and, find ways to cut funds. And as someone once pointed out, it was the equivalent of what 2 years, 2 teachers' yearly salary would be, even though he wasn't going to cut 2 teachers.
Right.
But, I mean, there was a tremendous increase.
You don't know why? they had a ball field that had brand new grass in there, and they had two coaches programming the sprinkler system instead of coming on one time a night, it's going on 3 times.
Plus, they had a lot of 2-inch meters that was unnecessary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the big deal for them though is just that upper
They
level.
can get by with
usage, right?
3/4
I mean,
inch.
They just keep caught that upper
Water
level
usage.
usage.
And
They
they
took
did
the
an,
keys away from the coaches and had.
and they did an inventory, and they reduced the size of a number of meters.
See, my problem here now is, everybody is expecting growth. But what you hear in this town now is people leaving. I mean, I can't see no growth. I mean, we used to have a little over 3,000, we got just 2,900 something now.
Yeah, I mean,
And-
I reviewed a
Y'all
preliminary,
planning on something that's gonna come, I mean, you don't know whether it's gonna come or not.
I reviewed a preliminary plat that's gonna be in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission next Monday, for 162 lots. And he wants lots on the ground by this time next year. So, I mean, he wants.
Guys, I gotta tell you, it doesn't, I'm not worried as much about growth, because that's gonna happen regardless, whether you want to, whether you put your foot down, whether you don't have enough water, whatever. What worries you though is that, you know, we've got ourselves in a situation where we don't have enough water, and that can damage the ability of the city to grow industrially. And the fact is, you know, if you look at cities that do things the right way versus the wrong way, you know, I mean, if all you're gonna be is a bedroom community, man, that's a tough way to survive. And I hope we don't plan our lives around just having houses.
But see, we got water that we could be using. that was
Absolutely.
planned
Right.
to be done one way, and evidently, I don't know who it is, the council or who, don't want it to be used that way. Because I was on the council when we planned the water. Down there where the take point is, there's another take point up here north of town. And the old part of town was supposed to stay on well water, and Georgetown and up here, anything north of what's that road, Spence Road, was supposed to have been on,
And I understand what you're saying, and it was informative to hear that in the last council meeting, because honestly, we couldn't find anything that substantiated what you're talking about.
And that's something else you
Have
said
you
too.
yet?
Have y'all found any prints, anything, any kind of?
Yeah, we have found it.
They found the other take point, didn't you?
Yeah, we found, the take point is at well
Did
6.
you find the other one north of Spence?
No, it's not take.
It's
It's not a take
That
point
is
now.
only a tap with a cutoff.
Yeah, the tap with a cutoff.
So that if we ever need a take point there, North Texas Water Lines does not have to kill the line to get to
Right,
the
I was saying,
tap.
so they've already got a tap though.
Yeah, right.
What it is,
It's not a designated take point, it's
All
just a
right,
tap.
but it is a tap.
But I did
Yes,
go out,
indeed.
and I did go out and locate all the boxes and all the valves. Now, unless you come up with a set of plans, I still haven't come up with no plans.
Well, we found the set of plans for the CGMA line that show, well, we don't have the,
Engineering.
we don't have the Van
Well,
Alstyne
yeah.
connection, but we have the CGMA
Well, if you
to
check
the
with
vault.
T-Top,
We're trying,
if y'all talk to them, or
Well, we-
what's his name, Larry,
Mike Hibbard with Hager.
So do
Engineer,
they-
Jerry
so
Chadwick.
do-
Jerry Chapman's office.
So do we have a map of all of this? So just in case, Mr. White isn't here, the next person that comes, or it would have been very beneficial for him if when he did come.
Yeah, somebody go down there and
show all
done
of
a
the
drawing
lines.
just to show where all that stuff is.
But you know, but wait a minute, TCOG, what Pat's talking about.
That's right.
It's
TCOG
GTU.
makes maps
That's
that
That's right,
show
and we
where
had,
all the
at
water
Jerry
lines
Brownstein one
are.
time, I know that for a
Yeah.
fact, we had them right here in Brownstein, so what happened to them?
It's GTUA, and we'll check with them. It's not TCOG. TCOG didn't have anything to do with that. But it's Greater Texoma Utility Authority.
TCOG.
And they're the ones that own well 6 and own all that property going up the easement. So we'll check with them and see if they have any copies of their own.
They do.
I
They own one.
went to a small cities
They own all that
workshop.
property.
They don't own the well.
No, they don't own the well. They own the
You
property.
said the well.
They own the property.
They own the property.
Around, they own the property around it.
I went to a
I
small.
mean, I know we're getting
city-
into semantics, but GTUA.
Okay.
It's
I went
not
to
TCOG.
a small cities workshop this past week,
Mhm.
and TCOG put it on, and they said that they were now making maps, and that they could map out where the water lines were. Is that,
That's correct.
that
And
is
that's
correct?
it. They've been
And-
doing that for us for a year and a half.
But what I'm saying is,
Why
do
did
we
they?
not have any
What-
maps
that's what I'm
showing
saying. What-
any of this,
We have.
that you
TCOG
can just
TCOG
look
just started
at?
doing it a year and a half
No,
ago.
no, what I'm talking about, we had
But
some, which thing?
GTUA got this all through the system. They
Right.
have to have
They have to have a
as-built
record.
drawing somewhere.
That's right.
They do.
We're looking for them.
They have their portion,
We have,
but they don't have what, the engineer that's hired by Van Alstyne printed.
Okay, so before we head down that path, can we finish the water rate thing and get them something they can take to council so that we can move on that? I mean, to me, it just seems like the water, you know, if you look at the
But
rates,
if you look
guys.
up and think, that what we're paying for lawn water is 5% of the water sewer budget.
Oh, I know, yeah, I understand that, yeah. I mean, I guess what I'm wondering though is, you know, it looks to me like if we're gonna maintain the budget and we really can't go trying to, you gotta be very careful if you go to try to change that budget.
You do have to do what?
Well, I mean, you know,
A lot
you
of
gotta be
times, I
careful.
was counting 19 years, we amended the budget,
Really?
yeah.
Huh?
I mean, when Teddy Ann was mayor before, we amended the budget several times. So, you know, I mean,
Okay,
when
I'm
I
not-
say what.
here's what I tell you, every time you normally have to amend a budget, somebody screwed up doing something.
Yeah.
And it's, you
No,
know,
growth didn't come.
No, growth didn't.
well, or growth didn't come, or, you know, whatever, you planned for something that didn't happen.
And that's what I was gonna tell Kurt a while ago. That's what we're suffering right now.
That's right.
We as a council were sold growth
Right.
10 years ago. And growth hasn't come that has demanded us to use that water line that we're making $100,000.
Well, we've been making payments on stupidly for years without turning it on.
Well, not true. Not years. Because for years, we couldn't turn it on.
That's right. We couldn't turn it
Because
on.
of the residual.
Oh, because we were too far down the line,
Right.
right, you're right, okay.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
understand
And
that.
now we can,
Right,
and it's already hooked up, ready to
If
go to
I were the
Georgetown.
council was writing
so why haven't we already done that?
another contract,
I asked Steve that before, why come we haven't already done that?
he didn't know it.
Well, since all this came up since the last council meeting, if we switch over, that means everybody in this city on this water system will fall under the restrictions, including on the well water.
Well,
Huh?
that's inevitable.
Oh, I know, but I mean,
I mean, that's
it's,
not even an
it's,
excuse.
even if you're on well water, you're still gonna be restricted just like mechanical.
Well, that's conservation then.
Well, it is,
Yeah, and that's what we're working
I mean,
for,
we're-
that's what he said.
yeah. But at the same time, what we've also found out that, you wanna explain the chemical?
Well, I mean, I've got a whole presentation on that part of it. Like I said, if we want to stay on the water, that's
Let's
the
get the
capital
water
side.
rate.
If we stay on the water rate side,
The
it
first,
all gets,
the first task that council put on us was to find a rate that was gonna be applicable.
Well, let me ask you a real, I guess, I say stupid question. Are you making any money with this new increase? Are you able to put anything back with all this extra money you get now from the old
It's not
rate?
extra money, it's meeting budget revenues. We're on target currently.
And that includes having some depreciation, right? Which
That
keeps
includes
a little bit of reserve
right.
fund, so the answer to that is yeah. Because they had depreciation set in there, or they had money set aside that really wasn't encumbered paying the normal everyday operating bills. So yeah.
so at the end of the year, if they stay on budget, they'll have about $94,000 in a depreciation fund that will be able to carry over. It's a-
And if they get their hands all the way out of that for a couple of years, then you've got a little bit of operating money to do things when you have a wastewater plant that doesn't operate right, or you have, you know, whatever.
It gives you that emergency cash fund for something that, you know, like right now, Steve's spending, what, $48,000
$48,000 for a well.
He's got a drop well 6, 150 feet. That's $48,000 he hadn't planned on. It's not in the budget. So.
It's actually 60.
Huh?
That's 60.
Now it's up to 60.
See, the well 3 is where we spent 48,000.
Okay.
So I had 2 wells go down right now. I got one up running now, well 6 is still down.
So, and for people who aren't familiar with the city budgets, that's coming out of his regular $1.2 million budget, and he's gonna have to not do something that he had planned on to stay within budget when he gets towards the end of the
Might
year.
not buy some of the equipment
Or-
for the $1 million worth of.
Well, the
equipment.
$1 million is a funded, and that's a debt revenue right now, and they may not buy some of that. But once you go over to the debt and the debt side of it, that's a little different than the revenue and expenditure side. It's a fixed cost on the debt side. Once the bonds are sold, the money's there. All you gotta do is incrementally pay that off. So that's not, you're gonna have to pay, once that loan is taken out, you're paying that. That's not a variable anymore. what is variable in Steve's budget is things he's gonna have to not do to help pay for the well 3 and the well 6 improvements.
Well, things has changed in a heck of a lot. I guess I've been on the council about 10 years, and I served 19. And we didn't have near as much trouble as y'all had.
Back then, your infrastructure was still within its lifespan. It's outside of its lifespan.
Right.
And the previous groups didn't plan very well, since you've been off the council, Mr. Babbitt. They didn't plan very well to replace some of that infrastructure. That's why you've got stuff collapsing everywhere, because the last 20 years, nobody's taken care of it.
And we had money in the bank to do stuff like that too.
But the way I look at it is Frank's having to clean up a mess that he should have never had to clean up, and Steve too. Prior city managers and prior public works guys didn't take care of this stuff, and so now it's falling to us to take care
I
of
tell
it.
you what, listen, something happened, because I seen the time when Ben was public works director, we had to just about beg him to spend money. I think you remember that, didn't you? He never did go up to where his budget is, and now like we over budget all the time.
Go back to the rates. One of the main issues, I think, dealing with these rates that, to me, kind of throws them out. And you would have to change the water rates that are based off our cost factor. Ethically, I don't think it's fair to charge sewer usage based off your water. So I think we have to take and strongly look at changing these so we either cap out the sewage rates. I know that the general effect is, because we're looking at cost basis, we still have to generate the revenue that has to go back to the water side. I understand that.
No, it won't affect the water side, it'll affect the sewer
Sewer
side.
side, yeah.
But what's gonna end up happening is, if we're not spreading out the sewer and we want a cap on it, it's pushing it down on your regular base customer.
Yeah,
It's
your
gonna push
base
it back
rate
on
is
the
gonna
rest
have to
of
go
it.
up.
So
Yeah.
any manufacturing, any industry that's using water, which of course we don't have, Caterpillar's not generating anything, it's a supply warehouse, neither is Foxworth Galbraith, but any manufacturing, any industry that comes in, they're gonna have a cap just as well as everybody else, and we're not gonna capture that sewer revenue. This spreads it out over 1,300 customers, equitably. If we put a
I
sewer.
don't think it is equitable,
Well, I
because they're
understand,
not using it. You're charging them for a service they're not using.
and I understand what you're saying, but what it's gonna end up doing is it's gonna push it back down on the typical base customer.
So be it.
How could the winter rate averaging do that, Frank? Because that industrial customer is gonna use as much, hopefully in December, January, February, as he does in July and August, other than irrigation.
That's probably true.
That's what you hope.
Okay.
That's what you hope.
I know something else, Frank, for a fact. Nobody in my house has been white. We do bathe every day, wash 3 or 4 times a week, and then I wash my corn clothes twice a week probably. And, I was told up downstairs about a week ago, this is one person, her dad lives in this town. He don't bathe every day, he don't cook very much and wash dishes, he don't wash clothes. And his water bill in this city, right south of Diamond, was $150-something, and mine run about 92 to 98.
What does that
That's
tell
just
you?
one person, huh?
What does that tell you?
It tells me that some people are getting charged like everything, just like
No,
Jim
some,
said.
sir, it tells you somewhere on his property he has a leak.
That's right.
Has a leak somewhere.
Using more water.
That's exactly what
He's
that's
still
saying.
doing, he's using more water
Past the meter,
somehow.
there has to be a leak somewhere.
Yeah.
I was told to ask that, so I'm gonna tell her.
No, there's a leak, well, Steve, you had a couple,
You'd almost guarantee
We're,
that.
right now, we're marking 13 to 20 leaks a week right now with this type of weather. And I've got a crew, maybe 3 to 4. We can't get to them all right now. I mean, it just, the leaks are popping faster than we come.
You're talking about city leaks.
I'm talking about city leaks, yes.
They're talking
Now,
about.
during
But
this ice storm.
there's an equitable, I mean, if we're having them on the city side with the bad weather, you're gonna have them on the customer side as well.
We turned off water every night during this cold weather at people's houses that had water leaks.
Residential.
They called and
You
said,
know where the water leaks are.
they called and said, we got water pouring out from under the slab,
Uh-huh.
so we'll go shut the water off. I mean, I'm paying overtime for guys to come out and do that. We do it. But if, finding most common water leaks on galvanized pipe, it takes years to find sometimes.
why are they not required to fix the leak like what you talking about?
Well, I mean, if we can find it, we turn the water on till they do.
If he's having that much.
City don't care whether they fix it or not, they pay for water.
I mean, if he's paying for the water, it's assumed that it's regular use. He may or may not know he's got a leak. I mean, most, I had a leak that, in my house, that a carpenter nailed when it was originally built 20 years earlier. It finally came through and went through the floor. I finally found it. It was 20 years leaking, but I finally found
Did
it.
you cut your own water off?
Yes, I did.
See, myself and Steve will talk about this, and what, I guess the part we understand, it looked like to me, you let a person, individual leak, then we got a leak, like I hate to bring it every time I left on my house, it's been leaking 6 or 7 months.
I'm working
We
on it.
need to shut that thing down, and we have to set the whole city down and fix that.
You know,
It is running, I bet you it's run probably at least
that and
40
there,
or 50 yards down Paul.
that and there is flowing probably about 1,000 gallons a day. That's how much it's flowing.
Yeah, but it's all.
But at the same time, whenever I start shutting cities down and requiring boil orders, TCEQ's gonna come and visit. And I'm gonna try to keep them out as much as I can. Now, yes, I've got bids out, and on the valves, go in there and have them come in and put the isolation valves, so I can go in there and shut that out. The bids came in, the budget, price was around 4,000, they came in $7,000 to $10,000.
You mean right there at that elbow, they charge that much money to put
Per
a
valve.
Hot
flange
tap valves in.
Yeah.
in, to put a flange in and put a valve on right there.
So right now, I'm negotiating, trying to get a contractor to give me a better price to do 5 valves, come in and do 5 valves, which I have a better chance of isolating the city on leaks and stuff on this older part of town. I'm trying to get it done as fast as I can, but I mean.
Oh, no, I know that, because for myself, you talk.
I've got one down on, Fulton, same way. I've had Benny down there looking for valves, and then Benny and James went down there looking, we couldn't find a valve. What did Benny tell me on that side of town, this side of town? He said, you ain't got no choice.
For the sewer, you were talking about driving the rate, talking the base down. Why does that have to be that way versus moving it over to the water? Is the water income and the sewer income treated differently? Are they different colored monies?
Yes.
They are. So only
Well,
the,
in the budget, they're different. They're two different budgets. So what you gotta do is fund the water material and labor and everything in the water budget, and then the sewer in the sewer budget. So, like I said, it's like 1.2.
Those revenues are tracked independently.
okay, and that's why it makes
But
it,
it's
so
not
the sewer
transferable.
income is going toward
Or-
dealing with the sewer
Yeah, okay.
structures and everything, the sewage
It's
structure. is
bailed
that correct?
out.
And then the water is used to fund all the water stuff that we have to
Right.
do.
It is.
And
Well,
based off of
It
the,
is in the same fund, but it's tracked independently.
It's tracked independently, and what Steve has done, what you did this year was you moved 1 or 2 sewer people that you had, and they're over in the water side now, because you got more money in the water side.
So-
So they actually move staff between funds just to balance budgets too. So that you.
so then feasibly, it doesn't have to be increased. We can actually absorb some of that sewage cost if we go down the winter average, instead of raising the whole sewage base cost. Let's say if it goes up $5, instead of doing it $5, let's say we just raise it 3.5, another $1.50 gets absorbed over the water side. Is that a feasible option?
But if you do that, then you're charging sewer costs on the water side, and there isn't gonna be a cap on the water side, so you're gonna end up passing
Well,
that cost on.
well, that's why I was asking, if it's all in one big fund, generally speaking, it's sewer and water money coming in and sewer and water money going out. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Essentially, it does.
It's all utility fund.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's all.
It's an enterprise fund that's separate from
Water,
the
fuel can.
tax
It's
on
one
the
cap, but it's two
ad
budgets.
valorem
Two
tax,
budgets,
the
okay.
general
Yeah, the
fund.
track the budget is just so they know where the money's going.
Right.
The fund though, I mean, my guess is he's got one set of dollars for both. And basically, he just
One
tracks. he
one
tracks it.
final, this is the final in fund, and this is the final outgo fund.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. And right now, like I said, there is no, other than the depreciation, which is shown to be spread over both funds, so half of the 94,000 would end up in water and half would end up in sewer. Right, I mean, theoretically, I mean, it could be moved.
Yeah, except this year, most of it's gonna end up in water, because
Yeah, and most of it's
he
being-
blew all his water fund on
On the
the, his
wells.
depreciation on wells, yeah.
You probably don't know, but we were sold a bill of goods, it's supposed to be there. But the water coming up in that line is already treated and everything like that. And I'm there at the time, and I don't know whether Teddy remember or not, all that's supposed to be water ready to use. But now,
It is water ready.
huh?
Well, it needs,
It's gotta be-
residuals are down on it.
It's been pre-treated, but
It's-
from the distance from the treatment plant.
So you gotta add a touch of,
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a
Chlorine or
treatment,
chlorine or
I've got a
whatever you
treatment,
wanna do, yeah.
chloramines, yeah.
Okay.
I've got a chloramine plant there.
I mean, that's all you had to do to start using this water that we paying for.
Yeah.
right?
Well, as long as it's under pressure. Right now, right now, it's out of service.
Yeah.
Melissa, the 121 crossing, it's been out of service for 3 months.
The highway department cut it out.
Highway department cut, they're lowering it for
So
the
Melissa's
widening of
not taking
121.
none and Anna's not taking
No,
none.
Nobody's taking water now.
Nobody's taking water right now, so, I
So
mean.
who are we paying?
We'll pay for
You-
the,
We're just paying the debt, the bond?
You're paying the debt. Like I
Gotcha.
said, it's the debt.
Okay,
Once
it's
it
the
goes
debt.
to the debt side,
Okay.
you don't get to renegotiate.
you don't get to
That's-
stop paying.
You don't get to stop paying on that. Once it's
So
under,
it's
you
good
can use it.
I guess I can take, if nobody else wants, I can take full responsibility for that, 'cause that was a mistake that we made.
Big mistake.
Big mistake that we made on our council when we fell for that trick, I guess you want to call it,
I,
to pay for water that we weren't using.
I think those councils, that decision to have that water here, based, if Van Alstyne in the next 5 to 10 years goes through what Anna did 5 to 10 years ago, you're
If you
out.
didn't have that, you were in trouble.
Yeah,
But we weren't smart enough to put if available.
That's right, that's exactly right.
That's what we should have.
Well, and implementing the plan might have been, but having the councils that had that in place, knowing that you have all this ground out here that can develop, holy cow. I
You
mean,
did the right thing.
You did the absolute right thing, because you are primed for growth. You just, we just, and yes,
It's
it's
just delayed.
It's been delayed.
Very much.
been delayed, but if you didn't have it, you had no chance.
I would tell you the mistakes that were made, we're not addressing infrastructure with every single budget.
Right.
The mistakes that were made, we're letting a wastewater plant get to where you're getting fined by the state because it's in such crappy condition. Those were the mistakes. We're not addressing those things incrementally every year, and so then you get to a point where, listen, you gotta address them or you're gonna have problems.
Well, Steve, let me ask
I don't think you guys buying the water
I
was a
mean,
problem.
No, I think it's,
I was there on the council when we built the new.
Yeah, it's just lack of money. Well, it's just
One
lack
we
of
had was
maintenance.
outdated. The one we got now
is outdated.
is outdated.
I have, in that
And
long,
it's how old?
what's that?
how old is that sewer thing?
18 years?
Yeah.
I will tell you, when I come here,
20 years.
when I came here, the aerator gearboxes didn't have any oil in them. The roller bearings, I had one roller completely burned up, and the aerators, the UV lights were out, the UV controls were out, the RSV pump, the air pumps, I've got two that won't run. I have sludge, I have a hard time pumping. I've got 239,000 in it loan for RSV pump. I think there's 70,000 in there for motors and gearboxes. And if they come in and change my parameters and require me to start removing more than what's there, it's gonna be worse. I have grit coming through there that actually makes my ash so high on my chemical balance. I'm having to haul out sludge. It's not fully organic sludge. It's
Most of it's
grit.
grit, because you have a grit collector on the front of this
I
plant.
don't have a grit collector in there. It wasn't designed for,
But we were all sold this big.
well,
goods on the
somebody
water.
just felt like, well, we can get by without it here. Now, some of the things in there at that time was probably the best technology at that time.
Yeah, I can't imagine an 18-year-old plant having UV.
Yeah, where I come
Well, I
from,
just can't imagine.
I never used UVs before in my life. Me and Lynn argued all the time because on chlorine, if it gets out of balance, all you do is turn the valve bigger
Uh-huh.
and you put more chlorine in.
Yeah.
But chlorine has then got to be a hazard, not just a hazard, but a cost of dechlorinated now before it goes into the
You
receiving.
gotta have sulfur dioxide to dechlor. The bad thing is that, the truth is that you're not gonna be able to chlorinate out of the wastewater plant forever anyway. 'Cause I mean, every time you chlorinate a water full of organics, you're making what they call disinfection byproducts, trihalomethanes and all that kind of crap, and that's what, those things are carcinogens, and they don't ever go away. You can't ever get rid of them, you can't treat water to get rid of them. So, you know, if you're living down in Houston, I mean, at some point, god dang, your water's been processed 75 times before it shows up down there. Well, every time it's processed, it goes to a waste plant that uses chlorine, you're jacking up the carcinogens in that water, and they can't get it out.
And you
It
know,
won't ever come out.
did we pay very many fines to the state, well, our sewer plant? Do you remember very many fines?
$30,000. You paid $30,000.
No, you know, when we was all on the council before together, do you remember we
I
paid
thought it
very
was
many
just
fines
about
to
5
the
years
state?
ago.
But a lot
But
of
not like,
Not like
a
now.
lot of the penalties were forgiven by upgrading septic systems and so forth and so on in town.
Right.
And if you actually did pay the fine, we were required to expend the money.
But
now-
again,
But
but
I think
again,
them was
But it
problem.
was
I
in
worked my
trouble
way out
back
of it.
then.
now,
but again, somebody knew that plant wasn't doing what it should have been doing all the way back then.
That was
It's
old.
my
plan.
guess.
That was old.
that was the old plant.
Well, that was a pond, lagoon.
I was just a
Yes,
little.
it will.
Yeah, lagoon is one of the basic, the easiest operations you can have. I mean, Frank could tell you, I just spent $21,000 on a lift station, that no maintenance. Nothing's been maintained in, I don't know how many years.
Don't doubt that at all.
And you know, what hurt me more than anything is even when I was on there, you know, and before you left, we had a man stayed out there just about, he got much water. And evidently, something wasn't being taken care of there, if you say as bad as this now.
Grease gun.
Yeah, well, if,
Well,
I
yeah,
mean, this
you're
is a
right
capital
about
projects program, and we're preparing all the list of everything that needs to be done based on our assessment as we're going through it over the last couple of years. So I'm ready to talk all that stuff at some future time, but if we're gonna get the rates done, can we
Yeah.
stay on what's going on with these rates and what we need to do to make that recommendation to the council? Because, right, and with the budget and what's in there right now, it's, you know, other than the depreciation, it's a, you know, it's a zero net gain. It's a revenue, you know, there is no extra revenue anticipated with that fund. The 94,000 was budgeted to help in case something like the wells going down or something like that happened. So the question is, what are the rates? Now, as you go through here, you can see that,
Yeah, I mean, to me, it looks like Alderman
well, yeah,
Moore's option is the smartest.
well, but, well, now, I want to go through what, like Councilman Blake kept the graduated all the way up to $8. They came down from $9 to $8 at the upper end. If you want to look at that, and it just kind of show you I mean, and all these councilmen did it on the fly, and it was, you know, they didn't have a lot of time to think about it, but what that did, and what Councilman Blake did was he got rid of the depreciation, okay? Which means there are no cash reserves at the end of the year. We do this. He did keep the impact fees and the cap fees up at 45, which was originally, you know, we were told in the budget session that 70 to 80 was a good number, a conservative, aggressive number. And then
It was an aggressive number.
it was an aggressive.
I was gonna say,
I mean, it was, well, I mean, we'd heard stuff up to 120.
Conservative, aggressive number.
It was on the,
It's an oxymoron.
yeah. But 45 was kind of, and that was based, and the 45 came from the map of how the building permits were tracking at the end of the year. For example, there was one in last January, one in February, 11 in March, 15 in April, 6, and we ended up with 40.
Ended up with 44.
40, we ended up with 44 last calendar year in 2013. And we were trending when the budget was being done back in August and September to about 50 or 60. So and typically, building picks up in the spring with, you know, March, April, which that's historic. So we tried to figure out where the top of that curve was. So 45 was the number that the council finally decided on to do that. what that does is and if you look down there, it's 101 and 53, so it adds about $155,000 worth of revenue to the funds that the base rate payer, the rates don't pay. So what you're
About
doing.
8% just came in off of that.
Huh?
Or 8% of our operating budget just came in off.
Yeah, right.
Off the impact fee.
Just based on, and again, it's a budget process, so it's trying to forecast the future, but you're trying to be conservative enough that you have a fallback position if that money doesn't come in.
So 2 of these are planned at 45 lots, and 2 of them are planned
At 0, at 12.
12 lots.
Right.
Only a fourth of the growth.
Right.
Okay.
So, but understand what that means. If you cut it back to 1 permit a month and only 12, what you're saying is, I'm not anticipating growth. I'm going to put the burden on the existing rate payer.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay? And that's how, so if you're, and you don't want to be overly aggressive to where if you have 75, 80, or 100 out there, that it's going to be a reach to get there, and if you do that and you don't get there, then you're in a budget deficit and you're in trouble. So, that's what the council tried to do, is try to figure out what that is. Now, how much do you want to put on the base rate and put it on the existing citizens, and how much, kind of like my presentation last week, how do you pay for that loan? If you have 50 new permits in a year for the sewer project and the water project coming up, for 2 years, that loan is paid for by the new people, and the base rate, everybody that's currently here.
But what happens if the new people don't come?
If the new people don't come, then it gets spread back again. Right.
You amend the budget.
You amend the budget.
And that's what I said we've done for
Well,
years. Well, evidently, this council, the last 2 or 3 councils, don't believe in amending the budget.
Well,
And you don't have anything to do with that.
like I
We
said,
don't have anything to do with that.
yeah, so, and I understand, and that's,
See, that's what worries me so much.
Okay.
All these plans that you talk about tonight and other night, if that don't come, we're gonna really be in bad shape.
well, like I said, I just reviewed, next Monday night, there's 162 lots, and this builder's telling me he's gonna have them on the ground by next year. The streets.
Well, I hope so.
If that takes place, and all that's kind of a moot point.
Yeah.
But we had a man right over here.
Well, I understand.
The well, it wasn't worth a damn.
Yeah,
But he bought the well.
Right, here's what I'll tell you though, guys.
He ain't built nothing.
When he told you that, Melissa and Anna didn't have anything. When he told you that, they weren't built up the way they are. I mean, it's only a matter of time, and you gotta be close to being on that edge of that time period. I mean, I can't see how you're not.
Well,
You look at the growth coming out of that, just driving up 75, I mean,
I met
at
with
some
Mr.
point, it's gotta happen.
Yeah, I met with Mr. Benton earlier this week, and he discussed the supply. The single housing supply right now, we're down under 3 months of supply in the Metroplex. And a healthy economy has a 6 to 8 month. So there's going to be a need for new lots and stuff like that. The growth has already come through Melissa and Anna. You're next.
Well, maybe.
Maybe,
Because,
but
see, I served the
Unless it goes
council
over to
with
Gunner,
this
because of the 289 and
I
the
can,
tollway.
I can guarantee you it's not gonna get to Gunner before it gets here, because you got 75, and they can't get up the tollway at 289 quick enough to get to Gunner.
Back when myself and Bill was on the council, we was looking for all this, and that's been a heck of a long time ago. And we still hadn't got it, Bill, right?
Well, if you kind of look back at history in the 70s,
Yeah.
everybody kind of got excited every time there was a hot market. But the reality is, which I believe, obviously the pause button that hit 207, 208 wrecked a lot of things, and it was longer and deeper than anything you expected. But when you're out there talking to the builders and developers right now, and that's what I was sharing. I met it last week, and during the height of the building in the Metroplex, there was about 50,000 starts. 53,000, I think, was the peak in the 208. and everybody believes equilibrium right now is somewhere between 25 and 30 is a sustainable amount of starts in the Metroplex. Last year, the Metroplex did just under 18,000. So there's still a big delta. Now, one of the problems is labor, getting enough to build the houses. But having said that, well, I don't look for a, you know, if you're saying, what do you expect? I think a 45 start is very reasonable. I'm not going to tell you that it's conservative, but it's a very reasonable amount of starts over the next couple of years, certainly, in this market.
Well, I hope so, because,
Okay.
you know, we've told that before, and I know it's been,
No,
Now,
that's what worries me now.
well, I understand, I can't change history, and
I know.
you were sold a bill of goods on that, but by having that water line, you're prime, you know, the biggest thing that developers are looking for when they're looking for land is, where's my water, where's my sewer? And you are sitting prime, you have it already. You've already, the previous councils made that happen. It's there.
We made that
All we got-
happen on my council, but like I said.
Well, but it's there, so, you know, the first big obstacle to developing, the gutter doesn't have the water or the sewer to get that stuff done. And how doesn't, so, I mean, it's.
Al's got the same thing we
you're-
got.
Yeah, how can I say that?
They don't have sewer.
But they're
They
not
don't
going
have
to
to
frog
see-
over us to go to.
They're not gonna leapfrog, it's gonna keep growing.
I'm not sure about that.
But I hope you're right, I really do.
Back to the rates.
Yeah, back, okay,
We'll go back
I mean,
to
yeah, that's the development, and we can have that discussion. But Mr. Blakes, he continued to have what I call a conservation-friendly rate. The further you go up, he kept incrementally increasing it. Because what that's doing is if you get over 30, 40, 50, 60,000, you're paying an extra $1 per thousand to do that. So that is the conservation rate. So you are making the people who use that much water pay more for it because they're taxing your system more. So if they get up into those higher ranges, the question is, do we want to do that? So his rate,
Again, you're driving that why? Because we don't have enough water.
right,
We don't have enough water because you haven't tapped the damn line.
as part of it, right, and that's part of it. And this prevents overusage, and it helps save. I mean, Steve, we're talking, when I showed you the graph and how we're hitting that envelope of the max water that we can produce in Van Alstyne, Steve was telling me stories that he's staying up overnight looking at the wells and the power levels because he doesn't know that he can keep up for the next day.
When we start accessing that wall, we get 50% better. Did I understand that?
Yeah, we get.
We jump by 50% or so?
Well, we get another, out of 470,000 gallons a day, it's another 260, so it's about a 50% gain.
Yeah.
What would it take to open the valve, and close one, and start Georgetown on the lake water?
I've got that, we'll talk about that when we get to capital projects, okay? Okay.
Let's hear him speak there.
Okay, no, but so that's the conservation, help maintain. If people want to use the water, you're welcome to use it, but you're going to pay for it. If you're on the upper 50, if you're over 30, 40, 50,000 gallons a month, you come and get it, okay? We're happy to sell it to you. Now, on Councilman Moore's, the only thing, the difference, he kept the depreciation in there, which, what that did was, keeping the depreciation at 94,000 in there, kept the base rate a little higher, but what he did too is he capped the conservation rate at 50,000 gallons, okay? That means people who, you're paying for the water incrementally more expensive until you get to $50,000 or 50,000 gallons. So once you get over 50,000 gallons, basically all the water is the same cost. So you can go as high as you want and as far as you want. So as you're doing block rates on water, please be careful. Now what, Mr. Plakes too, going back to that, because the sewer rate's tied to your usage, you're getting double dinged because you're paying that same amount on sewer too, okay? So he's got the most, Mr. Blake's got the most revenue-friendly option with this, because he's saying, we're supplying water, we're supplying sewer, go out and get it, and you're gonna pay us for it, okay? The only thing the only thing he didn't keep was the depreciation. Now, Councilman Moore's option caps everything at 50,000 gallons. And based on your usage, that's probably not, I mean, there's two-inch, or there's,
There's very many people in Van Alstyne who you get.
well, I've got all the 2-inch, I got the 2-inch meter readings.
We did have some.
Yeah, there are 7 2-inch meters that went over 50,000 gallons last month. So there's 7 of them.
Well, that's just-
Again, the
No.
impact of that on your overall deal though is almost nothing.
It's, the impact,
It's insignificant.
right, but, okay, but what I'm trying to do is kind of rationalize where these and when I talk about conservation level is, basically, if you think of a conservation level on a rate, being, this is where we quit the abusers from using more. You know, what you're trying to do is prohibit, we're trying to conserve the water, but we also want them to buy as much as they can, because that's our revenue source.
Well, yeah.
But at some point, you have to tell them, once you get above this, you're gonna pay more, because you're making us
And that's right. to do
upgrade
that.
the system, okay?
That's right to do that, but what I don't wanna do is drive more people out of this town.
Well, I
That's
understand.
what I'm worried about.
I understand. And on, I think, Councilman Toiber's and Councilman Smith's option, I think the only difference,
Well, I was trying to incorporate the increments like.
in 5, yeah, using 15 as a break.
Yeah.
Right.
But they have pretty much the same, but what they did on theirs was they eliminated the revenue side, which is the impact fees and the tap fees, took those down to 12. So that brings down the budget, okay, now you're affecting the revenue side. This is a big balloon that we
Gotta
need,
increase the base rate.
that we need $2.1 million to fund for the year. If we bring down the revenue rate, so what we gotta do is spread it out. So what that does is that actually kicks up the base rate on every citizen with a meter here. Because you want to be optimistic to a certain extent that you can qualify that, but you don't want to be so pessimistic that unless you want to jack the rate up. Now, Councilman Smith said he wanted the rate to go up 6 to 8% during the budget sessions, and he basically did that by killing the revenue side of it, okay? And that would be a reasonable rate, I don't want to paraphrase him, but that was kind of the discussion as we go forward. And they both zeroed out the depreciation, which means there's no insurance, so they cut the revenue side too.
How many houses do you say come in how many months, when you say the 160 some houses?
What's that?
Per
162
plants.
How many?
With preliminary plat, 162.
Preliminary plat for the development.
160.
Not for the year,
Of these,
but
which
just
one would
for
you-
the development, 2
if
phases.
you
Yeah, I know
could
that.
only pick one of these 4, which one of those 4 would you choose?
Which hat am I supposed to wear?
I don't know. Well, let's move you to Van Alstyne.
That you-
Well,
that
I'm
you-
serious,
that you-
I'm serious.
Well,
You're a
I think
citizen.
that's a
You're a
great
citizen. You're a consumer.
As
That's
an
right. You're a
engineer,
consumer.
a recommendation, but not only just as an engineer, you have to look at it on both sides. So
And I'm
fair
looking
question.
at the budgets. I want to have a revenue-friendly account, so I would leave the impact fees and the tap fees at that number, so that I'm projecting for that revenue.
The 45?
45?
45.
Well, 44, yeah, I mean, 45 was, the basis that number was given was batted around quite a bit, and it was a solid basis.
Frank, what is tap fee
So
now?
it's 45.
45 is a solid number,
618.
based on what Mr. Vander's saying and what I've seen come in.
561, 38, right there.
619, 88, and what the other?
561, 38, it's right there at the bottom of your sheet.
It's at the bottom of the sheet there.
And that really is going to have to go up, because we're not even covering.
Well,
all the
we're
cost
getting,
now.
yeah, we're getting ready to change. We're under contract right now to update the impact fees, which we'll have to you in about a month or so. And That's all part of the capital program, which includes all the water and all that
We're
other
gonna
stuff.
get to it.
We'll get, yeah,
Boy, I tell you what.
that's a future
So
cover.
let's get back to your recommendation.
And the question, and this is really for the council, is that depreciation fund. I remember the council, the depreciation fund, that does, if we don't spend it, obviously it's there to handle emergencies like Steve's handling, but as you build that depreciation fund, and what I did when I was in Richardson, was I always wanted to build that depreciation fund to about 3 to 4 months of operational expenses. So in this case, it would have to be 2 million over 12, about a quarter of that. So you want to build that to about $500,000.
So I was thinking around $500,000.
Yeah, you need to build that to about $500,000 in a depreciation fund that acts as a rainy day fund, but it also acts as a capital fund. Because, you know, your observation about the maintenance, there are about 60 miles of water and sewer pipe in the city of Van Alstyne's system that we can find, that we have mapped. The last map that the city has is 2006, and we're currently updating the maps that can go up to TCOG, and we can send them those maps after we find them and get them done, but we're trying to, there's about 60 miles with about a $200 million cash value to them. Now, water and sewer lines typically last between 30 to 50 years. So let's put it out to 50 years to be the most conservative. That means we need to be turning over about $500,000 a year in maintenance, in capital improvement funds to keep up with the aging of the system. Over the last, well, I've got the last 5 budget years here, but the last 5 budget years, you did it a year ago. You did 533 because we had to upgrade the plant. We did the sewer line on Central, the 75 sewer line, and we did the Pearl Street sewer. And then we also, we upgraded the UV lamps, everything that Steve's talking about. You got there 1 year. Last year you did about $270,000 worth of improvements. And the years before that, there was 1 year that only had $37,000 in actual infrastructure improvements. That means you're falling $400,000 behind. And I don't have budgets past '09, but if you go back and look, just with the mindset that you have a $200 million investment here that's going to turn over in 50 years, I've got to upgrade it. I've got to put $500,000 in it to keep it upgraded every year as we go.
So what we were doing is just saving back money, because we had money in the bank when I was on the council, and I guess we should have been spending, what you're saying.
Well, I mean, you don't want to, you can't spend it all, you got to save it, but you got to save it for rainy days and when things break. But if you go into a preventative maintenance instead of a reactive maintenance, you get on the good side of that curve, things don't break down as much, all of a sudden you have surplus funds and the rates start coming, and then plus you get more people, rates start going down because you got more legs to shoulder the load. And that's really how that works.
I mean, I took over an aging plant, right? The systems that I had, we had 2 aging plants, water plant and wastewater plant. And I had a maintenance crew that did about 410 hours of overtime, average, the 4 years prior to me taking over. When I left, those guys averaged, the last 2 years I was there, they averaged 15 hours overtime. And the reason why is because they were no longer reacting to crap. They were PMing their equipment on a timely manner. And all of a sudden we knew when stuff was going to go down. You could, you're doing vibration analysis, you're doing other stuff to check out your equipment. You know when it's going to fail. And so you schedule those things instead of having emergencies. The problem is that they just weren't keeping up stuff. So, I mean, now you got to pay for some of that.
Right. And since Mr. White's been here, I mean, the preventative stuff is, it's been fun to watch it happen. Because I was here about 6 months prior to him getting here, as a city engineer, and trying to figure out where
So you didn't answer the mayor's question.
No, you haven't.
You've been dancing that thing long
You've
enough.
been
Move on.
dancing yesterday. I'm not interested in
Well,
that.
but
I want to know about.
But it's the
today.
philosophy of the council. I mean, I can't answer for the council, but to have the,
But of the four,
Well,
Based off of
Or a
an
new
as
one.
an educated
Or
consumer.
proposed.
or,
Yes, as.
You're an
yes.
educated consumer here.
as an educated consumer, I believe that capping the conservation rate, anything under, I mean, 40 or 50,000 is, I don't believe in that, because if people are gonna use that much water, and we need to talk, because I've got, you know, the 2 apartment complexes that came in and complained, the Hackberry Apartments, they used last month 107,000 gallons and 144,000 gallons on their 2 meters. So their bills went up 150% from what they did.
Which is
But-
wrong.
If you divide it between them per capita.
No, you can't do that, guys. They're operating a business, and you can't go in there and just say, listen, we're not gonna have any apartment complexes in our town, because nobody can afford to build one. That's stupid, because you're sucking revenue out.
Right.
What you gotta do is make it make sense. And whoever came up with an idea that thought that an 89 or 90 or 150% increase in somebody's bill made sense is just an idiot.
That is.
I mean, you know, listen, I don't mind, I think Mr. Moore's idea of capping it at 40,000 and going on, I think that you could probably increase those to maybe $6 and $7 and call it a medium deal, but to jack that up to $9 is just, that's just moronic.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's true.
So, I mean, there's a balance on the high end and a balance on the low end. I don't know, how big are those apartments? How many units are in there?
They're really not very big.
They're
Neither
not.
one of them. I mean, they're small.
So my question
If
is.
you had a real apartment complex in here, they'd kill you.
Well, and, you know, the palladium deal that was
Absolutely.
on the council agenda, you know,
If they looked at their water bill, they'd go, you know, I'm going to have.
well, no, they won't. No, because Hal you pay double, almost double than Hal.
But they're different than that apartment complex in that
This
they will
problem wouldn't
have
happen again
separate
on a new complex.
Maybe.
So they would be individually
duplexes.
plumbed.
Back-to-back
They
duplexes.
would, they'd still be on a master.
They'd still be on a master meter,
They'd be
yeah.
on-
Yeah, they'd have to be on master meter.
They're not gonna pay for individual meters, all of them pay all those base rates. They're typically gonna have a master meter.
And that example he gave with those, their base meter rate went up 50%
But
though.
still,
And I'm just saying, you know, I can see a 10% increase, you know, 8 to 10%. That's where I keep coming back to these base rate increases. I don't think the cost factor for these meters, these base meter rates, are anywhere in line.
I understand what you're saying.
And I know that in order to decrease those to basically, if you bring them in line with actual cost for driving a meter size, you know, a piping of that size, if you bring them back down in line, I know based off of, we're trying to generate enough revenue for this cost that basis that we're doing, you're gonna have to take and bring out that raise the rates elsewhere, I guess. Now, granted, we don't have any 10-inch, what do we have, the largest line?
We've got 12.
We have a
No,
12.
no, meters.
Meters.
The 3 inch.
3 inch.
We don't have anything, so right now, these 4, 5, 6, or 4, 6, 8, and 10 are way out of line, but then again, no one's using them because we don't have any.
If there's a big manufacturing unit that comes in here and puts a 10-inch meter in,
And has sewage, he's gonna be paying $7,200 a month with no water usage.
If he's manufacturing.
if he's manufacturing,
He's gonna be put down.
his water usage is gonna be way over that, and that base rate is just,
Yeah,
he's gonna be just
he's gonna pay
fine.
$100,000.
He'll have a separate
Not
irrigation
gonna-
meter, and every bit of what he's putting out is gonna be going down the sewer.
I mean, trust me, it'll fall back in line. Once there's more legs to shoulder the load, it ends up evening back out. But until you get there, and I know in the future, but until you get there, the equivalency rate, and if you want to look at, I mean, it's based on volume that those meters can produce. And that's.
And I understand, but it's not based off of cost for us supplying it. And a 2-inch, and I still say, for a 2-inch meter, I mean, that was just the jump in size from the old rate to the new rate was a 50% increase from the water side. But then you look at the, he also had an increase on the sewage side too.
Right.
So, anyway.
Okay.
But we'll press that.
$100,000 water bill a month.
So what I'm saying.
Not even come in here and pay that kind of water bill.
Big industry.
Hey, man, let me tell you, I got clients of mine that pay $500,000 a month for water.
Really?
If you're a semiconductor plant in Austin, Texas,
Yep.
you're paying $1.5 million a month sometimes. But you know, those plants, you have to understand, if those plants shut down, it's $1 million a day. You know, at least, that they're lost in production. So I mean, that, you know, for them, it's not that big a deal, you
That's in
know?
Austin though.
Yeah, and you know, Austin's got some pretty high rates, you know?
Well, in Richardson, I had TriQuint Semiconductors,
Yeah.
and then TI built a plant there too. And
Right
their,
next door.
their water demand, that I had to come up and put, they needed 500,000 gallons a day, uninterruptible service for a 30-acre site. That, you know, which,
Yeah, if you're a
on an
semiconductor, I mean,
average
it's
day-
all water.
on an
Well,
average.
let's get back to Van Alstyne.
Okay. Well, and the equivalency of what that is, so.
Okay.
Setting that, wherever you want that conservation rate, which it may not need to be $9, but it can, you know, and you probably need to look and see, because there were 2 or 3 other, let me see who they are. Lone Star. Lone Star has 3 meters over 50,000 gallons a month. So,
Again, it's not a significant dollar impact though to your overall
It-
budget.
it-
I mean,
everything
all
we're
you're
talking-
doing that for is to save water. And the fact is that conservation isn't, I mean, it is today an issue, but it's really an issue because we haven't tapped the source that we've been paying for. The fact is, if you want to drive people to not use water, that's really not a great idea, because the fact is, you want those people to buy water. You just want them paying a reasonable rate for it.
Right.
And again, if you want to take those, I mean, I'm looking at Mr. Moore's because to me it makes the most sense. But I mean, if you look at that and you say, okay, you know, you get to 40,000, you're going to get a 14% increase. Well, you know, maybe you make that a 15 to 16% increase. You get to 50,000, maybe you take that up to 25%. And maybe at 60,000, you go to 30%. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Going to 90% increases and stuff like that, that absolutely does not.
No.
And I don't think that you're driving, I don't think you're changing a whole lot of the water rate that it is today. I mean, it's not a whole lot. You know, the people who are using it, really, in a town this size, most of your income's coming from that, you know, 5,000 to 20,000 unit.
Right.
I mean, it really doesn't matter what happens much up here, except as far as, you know, Steve not being able to supply water, and honestly, he's not able to supply water because we haven't tapped the source that we should have tapped.
Well, I think the tap is
You know,
ready.
and
Ready.
I will tell you that.
that'll be, when we talk
Okay.
impact fees and capital improvements, all that stuff, we'll talk about
And
that.
I will tell you that, in my opinion, the depreciation is probably about right, and it, you know, if you're not putting some money back, I don't care if it's your household or if it's your whatever, if you're not finding a way to keep a couple of dollars somewhere, you're gonna be in trouble at some point. I mean, it's just how it is.
Now,
Exactly.
okay, I just plugged in Councilman Moore's rates, on the incremental rates here for those two apartment meters, and it would have raised their rates 38 and 40%.
See, and that to me is, listen, I think at that point, they're paying probably their fair share.
And not 122 and 100.
Yeah, not 150%. I mean, which is gonna run them out of here.
That's right. That's
You know, or you're gonna make them charge a bunch of people, you're gonna make them charge a bunch of people who are renting, because they need to rent, you're gonna make them charge, you know, they're gonna have to jack their rent up. And I don't know if that's
But-
fair.
No.
But, you know,
So do you agree with all of this that Councilman Moore has, Councilman Jennings and Moore actually, it was two,
Yeah.
that how they have plugged it in, or how would you change it?
I think I'd add a few more dollars to the end, if it was me. I'd say go to 4 to, you know, maybe that ought to be 4.5 to 6 to 7. You know, if you want to do that. I mean, that makes sense when you look at the number.
Get
To me.
6 to 7?
And with that change, would you drop the lower end?
It would change the lower end.
It would change the lower end.
It's gonna be nominal, but it's gonna change the lower end.
Yeah, I mean, what you're talking about here on that lower end, guys, is only a couple of percent. And those are really, when you're looking at that, those are dollars that aren't really big dollars. I mean, you're talking about $3 to $5 on a water bill, I think, right? And so, you know, the fact is, it's these middle guys that are paying for everything. And it's really their increase that's gonna make whether you make your budget or don't make your budget. There's almost no way to do it outside of addressing the center part of that column, because everybody else doesn't matter. There's not enough people in town on either side of that thing that make a difference.
Yeah, there's not enough.
Where's most of the water usage fall in? What what's our average water usage per household here?
Somewhere between 10 and 20.
About 8 to
I'm gonna say it's about 8.
8 to 10, somewhere in there.
8 to 10. And then basically during the summer months, because most of the city doesn't have irrigation, right?
Other than
It's Georgetown, right, that has that. Other than that, they'll kick in and they'll be anywhere from, I'll say 15 to 35,000, depending on the household.
Okay.
You know, unless
I'm
they
not
have.
gonna argue with you, I mean, I don't.
That would be my guess, anywhere from 15 to 35,000 on that. So that, in the summer months, that's where you kick in on those, but otherwise, it's in that 8 to 10, I would say.
8 to 10, and
8 to
and you might,
8,000.
and with the new, if you're gonna put a cap on the sewer,
Have 8 kids like
the exercise of going through a winter rate averaging is very time intensive, and, because you gotta go through each bill and do
Kids
that.
running on my ear.
Versus
Get you a
doing
water
a,
pebble.
just a
It's called a
cap
water
at
pebble. Have you seen them?
15,000 a month or whatever, you know,
And that's what I'm talking about, there's other cities that just use a cap, some use 9,000, some say 12,000,
yeah.
you know.
And it speeds up every time they take a shower.
That's kind of a good idea.
10,000 gallon cap
Water
a
pebble.
year.
City council voted
Why would you
it.
take it off? Well, I know that, but why did they take it off? Because they wanted to do it with their reason.
Huh?
They wanted to distribute the sewer
But,
revenue.
but like
I
Kirk
understand.
said, I'm paying 15,000 gallons of sewer treatment in July that does not in any way ever
Go
go
into
back.
the sewer.
Cannot go back
Don't go
to
to
the
sewer,
sanitary.
that's right.
Well, I understand, but what that, you know, in Mayor, and so the rates there, depending on where you want to set that conservation, to finish your answer on the water rate, that is finding that, where that crossover point is, and I think it's 40 to 50,000 gallons. And then as you go higher than that, there's,
Middle ground.
then you, yeah, I mean, you want,
Middle ground.
you want,
Yeah, there ought to be middle ground, not,
That's right.
you don't gotta punish
You
people.
don't have to
And
go.
and that's what it is right now.
But
That's
actually,
I'm
what
saying.
you
That's
do is you
what-
go to the extreme.
Well, that's what we did, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what
I mean,
was
it almost
done.
became punitive, and I don't know that that's, listen, you don't need any city being punitive on its
I don't
well,
customers.
think so either.
but based on it, based on the recommendations going forward, it was, if people are using that much water, he's having to spend 48 straight hours just watching his tank level so you don't run out of water.
Yeah, but again, I mean, listen, you gotta separate those two
Yeah,
problems.
that's a whole
I mean,
separate issue.
Yeah,
Well, I know, we
you
gotta-
almost gotta separate those. I mean, one of them is, listen, we haven't tapped water we should have tapped years ago.
Years ago.
Yeah.
That's a fact. And, you know, to say that you're gonna punish people because we haven't done what we should have done, come on, man. I mean, you already punished them enough because we haven't done what we should have.
That's the problem.
Well, plus they're,
Right? You're already punishing them because we haven't spent and kept up the
Every one
infrastructure.
of these people work for the city council, whether you pay or not pay. Teddy Ann works for the city, she's supposed to be looking out. So what these city council and the city council and the people who work for the city ought to listen to the people. Because there's more people put their name on that petition than it was voted last year in the mayoral election. So, I mean, y'all not, the city council nor the city employees is listen to the people, which we're all of them boss.
I understand. And they're my boss too, and what I'm trying to do is explain the rationale between, to have a system that meets state guidelines and you can count on sewer service and water service, when it taps in, costs you $2 million a year. How you spread it out, how you want to pay for it
That's right.
is, and how the people want to pay for it, that's, most of the people are going to fall under 30,000 gallons.
But the people in this town is telling the city council and the people who work for the city, we don't want to pay these high price people. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, well, that you're only, there's only 4 to 5% of the budget that's optional or not required. So you're only talking about $40,000 that you can deplete. You're still, you don't have that advantage unless you just quit providing service. I mean, that's, you've got to,
Okay, we've got a recommendation for Councilman Moore's structure?
Yeah, my feeling is, I mean, I don't mind more structure. I do think that you do need to probably adjust the far end there up a little bit more than it is.
Okay, so since it's going up in 50-cent increments, would you want to see it 40,000 to 425 instead of 4?
No, I'd like it to go to 450.
450?
I'd like 5 to be 6, and I'd like 5 to be 7, because I think that's fair.
Okay.
And I think that's fair on the people who are using it. You know, I mean, I think those increases are not going to result in, you know, a bunch of people renting houses, you know, not being able to rent their property.
Okay.
Could you repeat that?
That's,
40,000 go to
it's
what?
basically covered.
40,000 goes to
Without
450
depreciation.
on Councilman?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty close to Blake's without the depreciation, you're right.
Yeah.
And 50 go to,
50 goes to $6.
But again, I think the depreciation.
60 goes to 7.
Yeah. And I think the depreciation ought to stay.
Does anybody else agree with this?
I do.
That's 2.
You want it to go to 7 instead of 650. That's right, that's what you said.
Yeah, I mean, those
can I ask
would be
you a
like a.
question?
Yes,
Do you have a double major
double major.
in engineering and political science? Because you hadn't answered her yet.
I'm in the process of answering her.
Just so you know, I do.
Well, it's the wrong way around.
Oh, okay. And then the sewer rate, if on the advantage, the recommendation on the sewer rate is if there needs to be a cap of 10 to 12 to 15,000, basically winter months, that everything else is irrigation out there in the summertime, just understand that that hits the base rate, so that base rate gets kicked up quite a bit higher, because you've got to spread that out amongst all that. And then, so, I mean, that's the, you know, it's the balance that you have to do. But if, I think, I like Councilman Place with the depreciation, which is very similar to modified moral.
Gentlemen, ladies, I got an answer, but you didn't hear it. And I got a direct answer.
Okay.
Will you repeat that one sentence?
That one sentence was Councilman Blake's rate schedule is the preferred rate schedule, which is very similar to what he just said, but with the depreciation added, it gives you a
What would it become?
Okay.
Well, but again, here's my problem, is that again, I think you're taking those upper
Well,
limits too far.
and we're, and having $8 at the top, and I can agree,
It
but,
only came down $1.
yeah.
So it came down more than a dollar.
What was the modified?
It's the same thing as we just did.
Okay, all right, yeah, it's very close, yeah. I mean, I think somewhere.
A dollar there and a dollar there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Moore and Jennings is still, I don't think he needs to go up any more than that. I think that's enough punishment on the top end. It's still looking at a 25% increase, which is,
What? I didn't give me the numbers across the top.
I say don't go above the 5.
Oh, you don't.
Yeah, I mean, see, the way it's already slated with Jennings and Moore,
We're
I
through,
mean,
starting in.
on the high end, it's already looking at 20 and 25% increase.
4.5.
27, take it.
6, 7.
So you're saying more.
Would you like more
as
of those
presented.
ideas?
Well,
Basically.
no, I wouldn't say, my thing is, not as percentage, I'd say adjust it, bring in either a cap of a 10,000 on the sewage,
Oh, I mean,
and redistribute that, but the water rate is plenty on the high side.
I understand we're not going to be able to do a cap right now. I mean, we can do it in this next budget cycle, but as far as implementing the cap and bringing that down, that's not something we're really going to work on right now.
Why?
It's not.
Well, then that part of it is what we're talking about.
I thought,
Adjusting his rate.
If you can't do the cap, then Frank, how can you adjust the rate in the water side?
the water side you can do, it's just a usage rate, so that's not a big deal. The sewer cap, well, I mean, we could, but
How's it going to block out on the rate sheet?
that's what,
Because I mean, if you do 0,
Man, you gotta be
Then
very
it's gonna
careful
be-
with that.
yeah,
If you're
yeah.
gonna jack those water rates, it's gonna be tough.
okay.
Why?
it's going to, you're not going to like what it's going to do. to the
You're not,
bottom line.
it's gonna end up raising the overall rate, because the sewer rate's gonna go higher than the water rate now.
But before these rates went in, it was that way anyway.
Right.
With the cap,
You're right.
correct?
I guess, it was
Or
before I,
It's
it was before I got
the
here,
October
yes.
2012 change.
When was the cap taken off, Frank, do you know?
That's when the cap went away, right?
The cap was lifted
The
in
cap went away a
October,
couple months before
October
that.
of 2012.
October 2012.
Yeah, it was October 2012. That's when it got-
So that's when
So the
it
cap has
changed.
been gone for,
Probably
17
about
months.
a year.
A year and a half,
yeah.
yeah, it was two budget cycles ago.
Well, I still don't understand why we took the cap off.
With that modified modified Moore rate, that raises the base rate 7%, the 5,000 jumps 8%, then it's 16, 24, 20, 23, 34, and 45. So
What's jumping all that?
just the modified Moore with the,
With the 455,
456 and 7.
Yeah, so your changes at the top
456 and
though
7.
were,
we're 40+%.
yeah, it's 45% at 60,000, so.
It's not a good idea, it really isn't.
No.
yeah, I agree. I think that may be too
I mean, I
high.
understand what you want, but can't recommend that. I mean, it's not good.
And that's just changing the water rate, right?
That's just the water rate, yeah.
Okay. But
Now, if we go in with the sewer rate, if we go in with the sewer rate and cap it at, say.
10,000?
10,000 gallons,
We
Yeah,
can't.
Wait a minute,
That-
let's get through the water first.
okay?
Okay.
Well, but what I'm gonna do here is I can circumvent the program here real quick and just put in that 5162 on the sewer rate, put that going out, and that's gonna, ooh,
Sewer was capped at 12,500 before they lifted.
12,500 was before.
It
10,500.
was,
10,000
It's
gallons.
12,500.
it was a base rate of 43.40 if you hit your max.
That's right, that was 10,500.
See if we can, all I'm gonna do is put 51.
It's not.
Yeah.
And Frank, did you say that we can't do nothing right now on the
No, I
county
didn't say
budget?
you couldn't do anything, I'm just not recommending it. I mean, it's gonna push them all down on the primary customer.
Yeah.
It's gonna push
And what
everything
you're,
down from
what you're trying to.
So
I mean,
you-
if you think y'all are upset,
Yeah, what you're gonna do is
But-
affect
well,
a
hang on,
larger percentage of the population.
It won't be any worse than it was
But
prior
I
to
don't know nobody
October
right
12th,
now that's not upset right now.
other than what you've gone up
disagree
on
with
the,
that.
on the expense side,
I really
which is
don't.
tremendous. I
Are
mean.
you satisfied with what you paying now?
When I don't water my lawn, I'm all right.
Yeah, but
So
you
that's a
go water
no.
your lawn.
No.
I have to been watering.
No, that abused me.
Well, I know you said that before in another meeting.
That was painful.
And I thought the people in Georgetown had 2 meters.
I was an abuser.
Now, you got 2
Should
meters.
have.
Well, I'm the mayor, I want mine free.
It's his fault.
Oh, it's fine.
It is.
Bill, you have 2 meters down there? Where you live?
I don't think.
He did.
He
did.
moved it, Bill.
Yeah.
I live
Well, yeah, I'm gonna have to. He moved it, figure out.
I know he did, but
Yeah.
you had 2 meters at one time, didn't you?
He still does.
Yeah, he still got 2 meters.
According to the charts I've seen.
And I don't even-
Doing you no good.
And I don't even mind paying
as the
my
flattest.
one bill that I don't
And
use all
probably the most
winter.
reasonable.
I'm okay with
The
all
way it's
that.
presented now of
I'm just
of
not
the
okay
four
with my
presentations,
bill going
it's probably
up
the most reasonable
200%, 300%.
That's what bothers you.
Yeah.
The
And it
Jennings
doesn't- and
Moore
I can understand
is,
why.
and
It's just
and
wrong.
especially
I mean,
considering the
like I
fact.
said, most of these people
it
are seeing like a
considers
10% increase.
depreciation.
You know, listen, we're gonna have a 10% increase, or we're not gonna pay for the stuff the city needs done. So you're gonna have to pay that.
Yeah.
But it's those increases to the people who are running a business who have 150% or a 300% increase, that's
That's
just
what's
wrong.
wrong. That's right.
Yeah, that's just wrong.
I mean,
That and rolling it out the way they did was wrong. But
Yeah.
That's gone.
It's over.
I hear it.
I bet you they don't do that again.
But anyway, okay,
Basically, from what I've charted out, the Jennings Moore presentation is probably the flattest as it rolls out, and the fairest of the 4 presentations, especially considering that it considers putting in the depreciation fund.
Right, that it keeps.
Because you've got to plan for that. You can't plan for a 0 depreciation fund. You've got to have that reserve money in there. And probably that 45 lots is probably a little high on the planning side, maybe not. You know, things can kind of change it. But I guess they're already expecting what, 50? So maybe it's a little bit on the low side. It all kind of depends on when it comes in.
Yeah,
But
I mean, right
now,
we're at
here's
6 lots.
what I'm gonna ask about that portion of it.
Horton plans on running out of lots in the current phase of Georgetown that they're building at the end of the summer. That's their plan.
So I don't have a problem with 45 lots. With the water and sewage usage here, with these numbers, are these 45 lots at all 12 months of the year income on this water and sewage, or is it planned?
No, it's just the revenue on the
Meter
fees.
tap.
Oh, just on the
Yeah.
tab.
Okay.
Yeah, these are just the one-time
These are
fees they
just
pay.
a
just to
one-time
get in.
fee, so there's no usage income in it.
No, there's no usage income anticipated.
None of these 45 are counted as coming online. It's just the impact and the tax.
And once they do come online, that even makes it
That's-
look
that's
better.
where I
Yeah,
want-
it makes it look
That,
better.
when, you know, that, when I went through that funding of the water loan.
Right, and that's what I was
That's
gonna,
the-
that was another question I had down the line. I
The
thought I
benefit
didn't
is
get that.
you've got those extra 45 lots added to the 1332.
So these are just impacting tap fees.
Yes.
And those lots coming online have the potential to help offset the irrigation meters that are being cut off. If the HOA wants to shut theirs off, just contact us. I mean, I didn't,
I mean, one less meter I have to read.
Signal,
but
We'll do
Would
the
it-
Hunger Games signal.
this Hunger Games, would anyone like something to drink, water, Coke, cold drink, anything?
I'm fine, thank you.
okay, so
No, they make-
we have we do have a recommendation for the board. Take a deep breath.
My only caveat, and I know it's not agreed
Bring
upon,
me a bottle of water, please.
on the water side, yes, on the sewage,
I
no.
hope it don't.
I still think we need to look at that cap in the sewage rate on that. But as the water side, I would say, yes, that's the fairest of the ones there. That's
Leave it
probably-
at 4, 5, and stop at
Which one
5.
is that?
Right, the Jennings Moore, leaving it the way it is unaltered on the water side.
Okay, and I mean,
I
the
understand.
program won't do it on the sewer. I mean, you do understand the primary customer, the residents are gonna carry that burden.
Yeah.
I mean, and if we do get manufacturing in, you know, they're not paying for any of that sewer. Anything that they treat and they put down, I mean, they put down the sewer, they're not gonna be charged for it.
You gotta realize,
I'm gonna have to stick with, I fundamentally have a problem with charging for sewer at water usage when you're not using, and it's not being processed. So I'm gonna stick with my fundamental argument there. I just have an issue with that.
Let's say the infrastructure's so poor on the sewer side, and we have so much infiltration, that what you are watering your lawn, that runs off, ends up in our sewer anyway.
But good Lord's rain
I'm-
does too.
I'm- And I gotta smile at you, because I'm being, we want to update the system. I mean, I understand what you're saying.
I
just
understand
have
that.
I have a real concern with,
But that's not the user's fault. He's still,
I agree.
that user is still not using it, or not,
The
it's
thing
not
is-
being processed.
Yeah, I understand that, but the problem is, listen, guys, this is all our system.
That's right.
And so the fact is, you know, you can, listen, you can say, you know, we didn't do it, we weren't, hell, I didn't live here when they weren't paying to take care of the system. The fact is, I do live here, and the fact is, the system's gotta be brought up to snuff, and the only ones paying for that are us, the people who are here, because it's our system. So the idea that you can walk away from that and say, you know what, okay, the thing's aging, it's falling apart, you know, it's still gotta get paid for, and whether you do it on the water side or cap the sewer or whatever, I think it looks a little better if you don't cap the sewer for right now. I think maybe if you get to a position where you have a few more people in town, then I think it's easier to cap sewer rates in a larger community because it doesn't impact the water rate so much. If you try to do it in this community, I think what you're gonna find out is it is gonna impact that in a very undesirable way.
It didn't.
Well,
Okay.
but it did because they weren't spending any money on
It
infrastructure.
did because they weren't keeping up the system,
It
right?
did because we're in this.
Had they been keeping up the system, it would have
Water
impacted.
consumer should not be asked to keep up a system that I'm not using either with my irrigation well.
But that, I understand. That goes back to the statement that it is our system,
Yeah.
and we're trying to maintain it.
and if, you know, everybody keeps referring to industry comes in. I came from a city that we had industrial waste come in. That drove my cost of operation up tremendously.
Oh, yeah.
And if they're gonna be able to use 60,000 gallons we're not even paying anything on the preventive of the wastewater, it's a nightmare for me.
Okay, well, what size meter would that industrial plant probably have?
Some of them could use 2 inch, some of them could use 3 inch.
Okay, so increase their monthly charge for their
So
service.
the net-
And that usually happens. I mean, in a bigger city, every industry will have their own wastewater permit issued by the city and.
And a lot of cities
They
have,
still discharge you.
they break it down, they have commercial rates, and then they have.
Right now, we don't have
residential.
commercial rates.
And that, all right, that was, to me, that's part of the purview of this committee, because it should have commercial rates in it too.
Yeah, I mean, at some
But
point,
that's
we'll do.
right.
Right now, yeah.
At some point you will, but right now you don't
Right
have
now,
it.
we don't
And right now, it makes no sense to address it.
But I mean, you know, you talk about the infrastructure. If one sewer line fails under a road, I got more damage just to the sewer, not just to the sewer, but to the road bed itself. And it may take out the water main at the same time. So, I mean, the sewer's actually probably in more critical shape than the water lines.
But my point being, irrigation water does not compound that.
Well, but you have a solution though, too.
What?
You can put in a irrigation meter separate and it won't be charged sewer.
No, I'm not gonna pay impact fee on something I've had for years, no.
I'll say you know, Jim.
Why would you pay an impact fee on putting in an irrigation?
That's what the impact fee regulations are.
Just another separate line?
Yes.
Not the,
I've
you,
learned something.
it's,
Comes out to almost 800 to put an irrigation meter.
Yeah, it's about $800.
$800.
But when we changed the rates last October, we had a few people do it. They wanted to continue watering their lawns like they did, and they were content.
So are they saving with not a cap?
well, there's a payoff, and
They pay for the $800 for the irrigation meter, but they don't get charged the sewage side on it. They
Right.
only get charged the water side.
And they may only keep it 5 months a year.
Yeah.
So they don't pay that base rate,
Correct.
those are 6 or 7 or
Yeah.
whatever.
Right. So it may actually pay off.
About 3 years.
Is that what it is?
Could, depending on if it's a 1 inch or what it is.
the answer on the sewer rate is that cap is a whole different gyration. We'd have,
Okay, let me
we're not
ask you
prepared
this.
to answer.
Right.
I mean,
Okay.
it changed that this budget year.
So
We can
let's
change
go-
it next
Let's go
budget.
back to the rate.
$800 impact fee, you said, about.
Around about, yeah.
Someday someone wants to build a house on there. Do they pick up the additional impact fee?
No, it's
They
only
are
paid
there.
once. It's only paid once when it's half of the meter.
Right, put it on vacant lot.
They-
Okay.
That's what Chip did.
Okay,
All right.
Sure, so we have,
Actually,
okay,
you know.
so
let's go back to the rate.
as far as, where are we on the more rate?
It's the best one that I see so far. Of the 4 options that are given, I would say it's the flattest and most reasonable.
Okay.
As it is here.
As it is given there, yes.
Can anybody else agree with that?
Let's just, why don't you go around the table?
I'm all for that.
Mr. Flan?
Okay, there's 2.
Sir, Mr. Church? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, that's the 4. Mr. Flannery?
That's leaving 4, 5 is back, right?
Yes.
Just leaving it the way it is?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Patterson? Okay. Mr. Weber?
I don't have an opinion on that.
Okay. Mr. Jaskey? Okay. All right. Okay. All right. We're going to, in the interest of time, on the water availability, y'all saw the presentation last week. That was, Lynn had some updates to it, and most of those have been discussed as far as the revelation that y'all brought to us is that the actual take point is at 6 instead of at 3. Capital projects, water chemistry, that's all stuff that can be presented at a council meeting. If you want to move down to number 5, the hardship non-payment policy.
I have some recommendations on
The first sheet will be after the 4 cities comparison. That'll be the utility payment extension policy. This is the current policy we're under, passed and approved November 13th, 2012, amended by City Council April 9th, 2013. This is the current policy we operate under. If you want to take a second to read it, we'll move on through the extension hardship documents. On the next page would be the payment plan agreement that the person that comes in or calls agrees to. The following page is financial hardship policy. This is based upon recommendations of council. This is what legal drafted. If you want to read on through that, see if it's more appealing.
Can I make a comment on that?
Sure.
When the idea of a hardship policy was brought up and presented, it was strictly if there was a water leak, not because of age or anything like, or income or anything like that. It was basically if you had a leak and instead of having to pay $1,000 all at once or have your water cut off, that it be allowed to be over a period of 4 months, 6 months, something like that. That was,
There's a leak adjustment after this.
yeah, well, but this was not the intent, and I don't know how legal came up with that, or interpreted that, because that's not what was presented to,
We have so many policies that are not in writing. This was probably one of the ones that were needed in writing. Just like the leak policy, there's no real policy there.
right, and that's what was
But
suggested.
we need both, we need them all.
Well,
You got that right.
Yeah.
Everybody will know.
Yeah.
That's right.
yeah, but
I don't know if you need a hardship
government
policy
issued
for what.
unemployment compensation, food stamps, seniors,
I said, I don't know if you need a
Medicaid.
hardship policy for water.
I mean,
I mean, that's just my
All the
opinion.
local towns
What'd you
do not-
say?
do not
I
have.
said, I'm not sure you need a
Could I-
hardship policy.
No, I agree, we don't need this. This
Can I
is
make a
not-
recommendation?
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I have some recommendations for this, all of these. And what it all boils down to is we have an ordinance number 699, and it says it repeals all of the previous ordinances. If we have nothing in our ordinance that includes any of this, and I have put out a sheet here that I would like to see recommended to the council, because these are things that we do not have in black and white. We have never had in black and white, and they're not included in the ordinance that we presently have. I contacted the cities of Sherman, Howe, and Tom B. regarding a financial hardship policy. None of the three have a financial hardship policy. I was told that this is a very involved procedure, as all hardship indications would have to be researched. I also contacted the program manager of Energy Services. They do not provide assistance for water, only gas and electricity. The Salvation Army does help, and also some of the local churches do assist. But there's not any city that I contacted that have a financial hardship policy, because it is a very difficult policy, not just to enforce. It's not something you can just say, well, I'm going to leave that up to the discretion of the water, nothing personal.
It's a difficult
To the
policy to
water
police.
clerk.
It is.
And it's a policy that no one has because of the difficulty of it.
Yeah, well,
I did find out in Tom Bean, they will not help with the water, somewhere I've got my notation. They will help with the sewer, which I really didn't understand that. But, and if you wanted help,
Small amount.
it was a very, to me, the manner in which it was handled, would be very degrading because the person would have to go publicly before the city council, state what the hardship is, why they're having such a hardship, and what they were requesting.
This
Wasn't
wasn't a leak,
even
it was
a form.
hardship.
This is hardship on sewer, a hardship
I can understand
payment.
the sewer relief on
But-
the leak, but
No, they have a different leak policy. Right now, what I'm talking about is a hardship, what you're talking about, which is this financial hardship policy. It is not done by any city that I
And
know
there
of.
was three, there was Sherman, Tom Bean, and Howe, right?
Yes,
Actually have.
No idea of what any
Katie, who
cities
is
south of
that?
us.
these are the three that I contacted because they're more outside and in Grayson County. The companies that were contacted for the policies, there were only 7 of them that were in Grayson County. The others were in different areas.
assistance,
I also,
they don't help on water.
Tom Bean does not have a leak adjustment policy. And on that, they also go before the council for assistance. But they'll help with the sewer, but they will not help on anything in the water. Also, in our ordinance, we do not have a statement of intent to change the rate. We do not have our rates and charges in our ordinance that has been drawn up. We do not have a disconnect or non-payment, a reconnect after disconnect policy, name change, death of family member. We do not have, these are all things that we should have in black and white. We do not even have, right now, if you go into City Hall and you want your meter reread, you are quoted in ordinance 446, section 117, which has been in effect for a long time. Our ordinances took over and it deleted all these others, but we've never brought any of this up to date. It's still a good ordinance, but it's not in our ordinance. We don't have a list of charges and deposits. We do not have a leak adjustment policy or a payment extension policy in this ordinance that we have passed. The only thing you've got in there is a rate. And all of these policies should be in black and white. They should not be to the discretion of someone else. Once again, this is no reflection on our present employees, but I really don't expect them to be lifetime employees. Sorry about that, Shay. But you may be. I don't think that any of this should be at the discretion of a clerk. You can have a water clerk that's been there for 3 days or 2 days or 50 years. But all of the rules should be in writing with the decisions from the council, because all of the decisions that are made, the bottom line is the city is responsible for them. And even the plan by Julie Ford expands the duration to 6 months when you pay that out. I think that's a little long, 6 months. So I have listed all of these recommendations, and some of you will have to share them, but I have made copies of it. I also went and got copies of the leak adjustment and payment extensions that are from Sherman, and I also got the policies from Howe. So I'd like to, you're going to have to share some of these.
Do you want me to make some additional copies?
Now, as far as what the other cities do, Shane investigated that, and that's further back, but it has Anna through Whitewright on what their payment and extension policy is.
I
all the
didn't
same
do
municipalities.
Anna.
And we do have a current cut-off, cut-on, turn-on policy in place.
Yes, but it's not in that ordinance at all.
What you said in the ordinance that you got.
So it's an unwritten-
Our ordinance,
It's incomplete.
yes.
That's what
These,
I-
none
Probably should have been.
of this is listed in that ordinance, and it should be.
Just the
It
rates,
should be
it doesn't
complete.
affect
Doesn't affect all the.
the rest of the ordinance.
Oh,
Ordinance, I'm
Here.
pretty sure it's 446.
And it's
It's
same
not
place.
addressed, so it's in place.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's not in that, it's not in that
Maybe
It's
major.
not in 699.
It's
It's not
not in the major ordinance, because the first line in that ordinance says, just a minute and I'll read it to you.
Which was 699 or?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
First line in that says that this eliminates all of the previous.
Well, but it doesn't,
Yeah, it does.
no, if it's 460, 460 what?
I think it's 446.
446?
446 is down there,
Where's 446?
Yeah,
way back.
This is what I sort of gave that Steve whenever I
440, reading meters, same as ordinance 446, section 140.
I also went to TCON and contacted the poverty level guidelines and discovered that they also do not have any assistance for water. They will do electric and they will do gas. They do not do water because water is not considered in the same category. And the ordinance 686. Let's see.
So did it eliminate that ordinance or not?
As far as I know,
It's,
it's really
then
way,
if 466 is addressing
The meter reader.
meter rereads, then it's something else, but it's not.
but it is still, we are still using it today. It has never been put in an ordinance.
The meter rereads or the disconnects?
The ordinance 686, it doesn't, in,
I mean, why don't you just go ahead and throw that
Put all of
in the
those
next
in
ordinance
there.
that goes up and all of
this
it.
ordinance has, this ordinance should also have the rates listed in it. And it always has in the past. This ordinance is just a 3-page
I mean,
ordinance.
699 didn't have it listed.
680, we don't have a, oh, 699.
Should just.
Yeah, 699 does.
Just be adjusting the rates. I mean,
Yeah.
you leave the
See,
base unless.
you've got to change it in here, because that's all that's in there is the rates. It doesn't have a policy.
It didn't pick up all the rest of the stuff that
It
you think
doesn't
should
pick
have
up-
gone
Great,
along.
That's right.
It should have been just, yay.
They should have just copied and pasted it into 699.
Well, except.
Not exactly, because some of them we don't have.
Or, yeah, or, yeah.
We do not, we've never had a statement of intent to change the rate. And I think that's very important, that that be in our ordinance. And the one I recommend is the one that I had read earlier, which is, says the city of Alstyne may not make changes in its rates except by delivering by mail a statement of intent to each customer at least 60 days before the effective date of the proposed change. The effective date of the new rate must be the first day of the billing period, and the new rate may not apply to services received before the effective date of the new rate.
So
The
what you
statement
did
of-
is you're trying to
Well,
cure the
I-
rollout issues from the last.
Yes,
What it
the
should
statement
be,
of
like I
intent
said
must
before,
include,
right.
and
We should
these
know
are
before
things
they do
that,
anything.
that
What
should
are the
be,
laws?
Right.
to me, these are things that should be included in your ordinance, that if a person comes in and says, I want to see ordinance number 699, everything that has to do with that water or that sewer would be listed there, and not just the rate, which is what it is now.
So would
But
699
everything.
start with your statement of intent to change rate? That's all of 699? Is that what you're saying?
699.
There's also the meter, the disconnect policy.
So
What
this
she's
is
saying
all
is
of-
all the water policies ought to be put in 699 under one water ordinance.
Right.
And not just the change of rate. And
But-
it ought to also govern how that rate goes into effect.
Mayor, for bookkeeping.
Mhm.
Typically, like 699 would be an update to a section. You're not, unless the council wants to discuss all those policies every year, typically what you do is you have your base water ordinance that has all your policies about disconnects, implementation, all that other stuff. The only thing that's changing in subsequent years is the rate. So you just pull that section and it amends
Yeah.
that section of the previous ordinance, but you have one baseline water ordinance that has all your policies in it, which would have been 446 or whatever it was, and
I don't, I haven't seen 446 in
Well, I understand, it's been a while back, but if
200 times ago.
well, but what that would be is, unless it's, you know, it's the council's prerogative to address all those, but I mean, they get bogged down in all those issues every year.
See, that's what's wrong now, it's not the council,
But-
it's the people in the town that pays the bill. That's what Teddy's saying, I think, that we
I'm
should know
saying-
before they do anything.
That this ordinance, section 2, repeals the ordinance 680, 685, 688, and are repealed in their entirety and replaced by this ordinance. I think that we are talking about, people say, okay, do you know what this ordinance is? And then we've got to go to this ordinance, and then we've got to go to this ordinance. We need one ordinance
Right.
that has all of it in it, and then we can list each policy. If you come in and say, well, I would like, I like to know when there's a death of a family member. We don't have a black and white policy that says that. And if you haven't been in that situation, you may be.
One of these days, you will.
But we don't have a policy on that. We don't have anything in black and white. This is what I'm saying we need to have, and we need that ordinance to include these things. And this is a recommendation that I think we need to make to the council.
And I think that's a good recommendation. I really do, but I think the people ought to know what they're gonna do 60 days, I think what you said, before they do it.
Okay.
Now, what's wrong
Well,
with that?
that's the statement of
Well,
intent. to
it's
change
a
the
logistics,
rate.
budget, it's a budget logistics. That's your only problem with that one.
But the budget should be set, not for them, but for the people that live here and pay the cost to be the boss.
Okay, but you were on council. The council doesn't usually adopt the budget with the new rates until the last meeting before October 1. So what you're doing, what you're saying with that is, unless you want to back up your budget schedule and adopt the next budget in June,
Now, I'm not
which would
saying
make,
that.
which would make it very
All
difficult.
you gotta do is adjust the budget, don't start it till December 1.
Well, and that's your
That's all
solution.
it is.
But then you gotta forecast your budget for the first 2 months based on your old rate and then go through the new rate. So,
But usually at the workshops, the budget is decided. They can start. We don't have to, we can know before that last meeting what we're going to vote on.
I agree, yeah, I mean, the more you preclude that, the less you affect
You
the.
can do that before, this is what the budget is considering.
I agree, I mean.
And there's no surprises.
Well, I don't think it's supposed to be any surprises to the people.
And it doesn't have to
that
be
pay.
60 days, it could be 30 days.
It
No, it
should,
needs to be
But-
what we know, what's
30,
going on.
30 days would be applicable. I mean, we can make that work.
So, you know, but I do think that
Because with the new billing software, the new bills that go out with the
Yeah, the
mayor's
ability to go
newsletter,
ahead and put a letter in
it will
there.
give us the
Yeah.
opportunity to be able to inform everybody as opposed to the postcard where, you know, it didn't lend us any opportunity besides utilizing the website and utilizing the newspaper.
Where was the post,
And you
where
can
was
also-
the thing posted where all this was gonna happen, where the people could see it?
The marquee on the website and the paper.
Well, see, I'm a dummy, I don't have a website,
Okay.
so I need a letter sent to me.
And we didn't have, and I'm sorry we didn't have that in the budget.
But
I
it-
understand what you're saying, but we didn't have that for any type of postage to do that.
Well,
But
this
we
is what I'm
have it
saying.
now.
Then, you got a lot of people just like me. So then that's where you need to amend your budget to where to cover that.
And I understand that, and with 30 days, we're able to do that with the new billing.
And we can also notify
I just
you
wanna
when
be
the public
nothing.
hearings
I
are
wanna know
going
where my
to
money's going.
What's that?
Instead of
be. You can
somebody else making a
also, in
decision.
that
Getting paid
notification
to
for
spend my
30
money.
days, tell them about the
Well, the fact
public
is, they
hearing.
wasted more money
The budget.
having all these things
We can
come up
better
because they didn't roll it
inform
out right.
people.
That's right, that's what I'm saying.
But
Now,
we
you wasted
need
money.
policies
And time and
in
everything
black
else.
and white.
Yes, ma'am.
And the fact is,
See, all this time we spend right here, right now, if they don't decide to do that, we wasting time right now.
Everybody had an opportunity to read this? Does everybody agree with it? Is they like 60 days, 30 days?
I have no problem with changing it to 30 days.
I think 30 days
30
is
days,
fine.
plenty.
Yeah.
Is that fine?
Yeah.
Have we addressed the hardship policy thing yet? Are we,
No.
not doing that?
Hardships? what the mayor recommended in this document, I do not recommend a financial hardship policy. I do not find the city has such a policy.
Then I'm fine with that.
Also, I do not think any decision should be at the clerk's discretion. All rules should be in writing. I'm sorry, no offense. All rules should be in writing with the decisions from council. The city is responsible for the decisions made. The plan by Jay Ford expands the duration to 6 months. I think that is too long. And I'll agree with that because, to be honest with you, y'all are the primary customer. The people that typically abuse the hardship policy are either one or two types. And I'm being general. I'm
I know
being
what you're
general.
talking about.
But
Two
it's
types
either
of
somebody
people.
that is genuinely having a hard time and they need help paying. Or there's somebody that has plans to move out, leave the burden on the city.
Right.
And the long-standing customers end up seeing that in the rate adjustment the next year. Because we fall short on revenue and we end up having, we end up having to delay projects or equipment or whatever.
Well, Frank, what I'm saying is very simple. Evidently, you make your budget up and everything like that, but you don't never intend to amend that budget if something happens, right?
Well, it's typically something catastrophic to amend the budget. I mean, it's not generally, if you're operating within your funds, then you're not going to see an amendment for something arbitrary.
Well, I know we done it plenty of times.
I understand,
And we made it up some kind of way, and I know Teddy remember this, and James, when Wayne was there, we'd be over budget sometime, but by the time the next budget come along, he had things fixed up. Now, I don't know how he done it or whatever, but you remember
Because
that.
he was a big tightwad.
You know, he was a tightwad.
Okay. Shay has some statistics on this as far as the hardship. I'm glad y'all agreed to it, but she did the math, so.
I do have one more thing.
You would, I'd appreciate her statement.
We do the extensions, and those are included in the packs. For the months October through January, I granted 44 extensions for people that qualified for the extensions, which means they haven't defaulted. Out of those extensions, 12 of them moved,
Since
and
they got the extension.
they just left on their bill. We disconnected 89 people from October to January throughout that time. But the total that we lost, October, November, and this month, we lost $2,708 on people moving on their extensions.
Oh, and the big.
See, that's the reason, that's what I was talking about now. You can't depend on what he said about the new stuff coming in, but you got people leaving this town to talk to me every day on the kind of the water bill so high.
Well, this has been going on even before we
Yeah,
raised the
I
rates,
know
though.
that.
This is just something that I've been
Well,
doing
some
the past
people
3
don't
months.
intend to pay, deadbeats don't intend to pay, I know that.
And they-
as
and
far as
they
the
know
aggressive
how to
people
go
leaving
for that
town, we did how many disconnects?
Um,
Or how many turnoffs?
Turnoffs, like people moving, I've done maybe 6.
And how many
I've done around
new accounts?
22 this month, new accounts.
And how much does that cost, if somebody don't pay, disconnect and then reconnect? What do y'all charge that
What do you mean?
roughly?
Like
You
if
know?
somebody doesn't pay their bill, we
Just if
go
I
and
don't
turn
pay
them
my
off?
bill and you come cut my water off.
It's
and
the
I'm not-
same. It's in the ordinance. It's $50 reconnect during business hours. After business hours, $100. But you have to pay that plus what is due.
Did you
At the time of
read
reconnect?
on this extension
Yes.
policy?
If they reconnect in their name, if they don't put it in somebody else's.
I noticed on the others, they
Some
had
people
only
do that too.
once in a
Happens.
consecutive
Yes,
12-month
it's still there.
period that you were only allowed one extension in some of the others. And number 3, and it doesn't state how long the extension is. And I passed out a thing from the Sherman, and I would like for you to look at it and look at their policy. They have what they have instead of, it's called the whole fee. Have you found that?
The only thing that falls and stuff like that is our system doesn't allow to just put accounts on hold. We would have to individually find whoever decided to do this. I would have to go manipulate their account because I'm assuming these holds don't let them be charged late fees or be disconnected.
Well, they sign an agreement and they pay $10, and they must pay the past due balance by the date on the whole agreement or the service is terminated.
So if they agree for
For
3
a
months
whole-
from now, I'll pay, then as it accrues for 3 months, they're gonna pay the whole bill off?
yeah, no, they only allow one whole thing in 12-month period.
So if they have a
They can say-
$150 bill, they give me $10. I don't.
But you only
know.
hold it, you don't extend it, you only hold it for the agreed amount of time,
What
whether it's to
happens-
the end of the
If
month.
What
they're gonna
happens
be
if they
using
move?
water within that agreed amount of time.
What happens if they move?
Well, they are on the
Also-
extension too.
What
Right.
do you charge,
I think it's a bad idea.
like you said?
Well, what are some valid reasons why we would, why?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of a reason why you would do that.
Well, I think one would be if someone lost their job, right? Can they prove that? They should be able to prove that.
But you've got to invest, I can come in and say, I lost my job.
No, that's what
Or
I'm
you're
saying. If
gonna
we have
call
something
the
that says,
ex-employer
okay,
to
yeah.
investigate all of
Well, no,
that.
no. Have them-
I'm only one person, so I know that with 1,366 accounts, I can't
Yeah, no, that's.
call
impossible.
everybody and investigate
That's impossible
to
to do.
do.
That should be your job, yeah.
Yeah,
No,
no,
you
that's,
shouldn't have to.
so there's really no way.
I
to
think you
prove
gotta
it.
be careful, man. You gotta really be careful you don't try to enact something that you have to police. Because the
Well-
fact is, if you have to police it,
You're gonna,
we
you're
don't have
gonna,
enough people to do the jobs here in town that need to be done, much less.
We have the payment, this is what we've got, is the payment extension policy.
They can take out 4 of those in a 12-month.
They can do 4 of those.
They can come in and
That's too
say,
many.
but we don't, say if somebody can't make their bill by disconnect, 26th of every month, they can call 2 times a month or 2 times in a 12-month period. The other 2, they have to come in-house. They can say, we need an extension. We typically extend to the first Thursday of the following month, which gives them plenty of time to skip the $50 reconnect, pay their bill, and get ready to pay their next one. As of right now, bills go out a little before the 1st. They're due on the 15th. After the 15th,
How much
10%
time does that
is
take out of your day? I mean, how many of those are you actually doing?
We
Mine
did-
and hers.
We did 89 disconnections.
Yes. It took,
This
it
month,
took,
we did 50.
it took 5 people to do disconnects that day, all the way up to 5 o'clock.
No, I understand the disconnects. How many extensions?
It depends. We did 44 from October to January.
Okay, and of those 44, how many ran out on their bill? 12?
Well,
I don't understand where number 2, the end
But
of
they'll
it
save you
says,
30 disconnects, right?
says the request can be made no more than twice in a consecutive 12-month period. And then in number 3, it says only 4 extensions will be permitted.
What was the first one, and number 2 you said?
The last sentence in number 2,
What we're saying in that is,
And
we'll
then
take
the 3
only
says
4
4.
period, but only 2 of them can be, say somebody's out of town and calls and says, oh my gosh, I forgot my bill, I'm out of state. Okay, this is your one, you verify last 4 social, put it on there, right over the phone, and it gets scanned and attached to their file. And then we also notate it, so they can do that 2 times. The other 2 times they have to come in-house to do it.
I heard about that too.
Why do we make it hard to pay our bill online?
We take payments over the phone, no charge. We take payments online through a third party.
Yeah, that costs like $5
We have
extra. What's
no,
the point of
we
that?
have no say in that. We can't
My wife
afford.
can
You'll have a
scan
contract
people's
with them?
credit card on our iPad. and we
You have a
can
contract with them?
credit
Through
card on our
USTI
website.
or
Yeah.
PayPal.
You do have a contract?
The software that we have, that's the company
That's,
that they contract.
that's what they do.
How long's the contract?
I have, as long as we use
Because I'm
Assist,
just,
we have to use them. That's what does our billing.
there's
That's
ways
it.
today. That was a way to do it 10 years ago.
You know, when you.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was thinking. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's like 10 years behind. what
Yeah,
you said you
there's
do
ways
today.
to do it now where
Yeah,
you're
I
just
think that's
paying for
in what she was
the
handling
fee
now.
that if you're using
It's
PayPal.
after the
or you're-
My understanding is we need to
10%.
find a new software vendor
Right.
and transfer all of our accounts.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have that many accounts. I mean, you guys act like that's a bunch, but, you know, come on, man. I mean,
Well, before one person.
Well, no, it's there's still a fee involved in
She
that.
coordinates all the work orders and everything that's done.
but do you feel like a person getting 4 extensions a year is reasonable?
But when I first started here, they had unlimited.
I know,
People called every
but
month.
even now.
yeah, I mean, I think what you're gonna end up doing is you're gonna create an environment where people learn that that's something that's
And
there.
it has.
Yeah, and
When I
that's,
first
that's
started
what
here-
bugs me, is I think you're gonna create an environment that
But we-
makes it.
When I
we
first
don't have
began,
to pay
people called
From, as a policy,
nonstop.
and then we need something Oh, that's a
That's,
problem.
that's what we're talking
And
about now.
this being put
is
into
the
place
policy.
cut back on a lot of my work because people will finally, well, I used to could just call and get it. Well,
Well,
now we have
they may-
rules. Now we
Yeah,
have
you gotta
rules.
come in.
Show them, show
Oh,
them
they-
in black and
They
white.
all receive this
But
along with the. front
four
page.
extensions to me is really
Oh,
too many.
going from unlimited to four, now we
Now
can
we can
weasel
go
it down.
from 4 to
Yeah, now
2.
you can weasel it down because you've already kind of broken some of the
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
habitual users of the extension.
Guilty.
Go down
Yeah.
to 2.
That's
Share-
great.
Are those that get the extensions, are they fairly repetitive? Are they
Yeah.
repeat?
Yeah.
Same one.
Oh, yeah.
If
Once
they
they're
get
used
2,
up,
they'll
take
use
the
2.
cut
If
off.
they get 6, they'll use 6.
It's just like the day she called, says
So that's
about
not-
one
that's
extension
not
was
what
already
it's intended
violated,
for,
no
then.
disconnect.
I didn't.
I'm saying that's not, its intended use is not being.
The intended
But
use is
everybody should
if
be-
somebody
something
forgot
happens and you
or
come in
something
and you
else.
say,
2 or 3 people doing what they doing to her. Everybody is being punished for what city policy do right.
I would say, yeah, but even on the
No.
cutoff list, each week, then we make a cutoff, each month, we
They're
make a
the
cutoff.
same one.
there's about 10.
Yeah,
They're the
about
same.
10, 15, and the
Same
same one
one.
every month.
And I take a cussing every
Oh,
cutoff day from
I
them.
really
Yeah.
think 2
Huh?
extensions a year is
Plenty.
reasonable.
That's
If
plenty.
you're
Yeah.
on the vacation.
Mayor, in that packet, there is all the extensions from all the other towns, and we're excessive.
I think we are too.
I would say we are also.
I would like to see that changed down to number 3, changed down to 2 extensions per year.
Does everybody agree with that?
Yes.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, I would
Still-
agree with
Still
that.
be over the phone?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
So
if
we'll
you're on
take 2
vacation or
extensions.
something
Over
happens,
the
That's
phone
it.
don't matter.
That's
It's
it.
two
Yeah, it
extensions.
came up, the
That's
reason
fine.
we went to the phone one was then because the guy that was on the boat that was
Yeah.
adrift.
there is another thing I want to bring to your attention that we have done for a long time.
Yeah.
And that is rates and charge, on that page, rates and charges, and I would really like to recommend that we change this. When payment is due, all bills for utility services furnished by the city shall be due and payable in full prior to the close of business on the 15th of the month. Right now, it's not, it doesn't say that. So if the 15th's on Friday, people will come in over the weekend and they know they can do that. They'll put
Slide it
it
under
in
the
that
door.
slot, they'll put it under the door. It should be at the close of the business day on the 15th. Everybody should be due to that. And
What if
it
it
says,
falls on
however,
Saturday?
wait a minute.
Okay.
It also said, provided however, that if such day falls on a Saturday, Sunday, or legal holiday observed by the city, then such bill shall be due and payable at the close of business the following business day. But it doesn't, but you, if the 15th's on Friday, you have to pay it on
Right.
Friday at the close of
Who would
business.
think you didn't?
Half the town,
Huh?
half the town.
On Friday
On Friday,
before
the 15th,
disconnect,
That's
they
right.
think today.
I had 125 people not paid.
Yes.
When I came in on Monday, I had 50 people not paid. So
So 75 people paid up?
It needs to
125.
stay.
over the
You know
weekend,
what,
they
I've
said
been
the
paying a
whole.
water bill.
So they had from the 28th of last month
Change these things.
to the 28th of this month.
Man, I gotta tell you, I'm
Okay,
more,
they're
I'm more upset that I can't pay it online.
Oh, they did. They did. We leave it
No
at
kidding, I think
check the
that.
box.
I pay everything online except my stupid water
You
bill.
do the banking to where you use the.
I do, yeah, I just put them online. Well, you know, I track, so I mean, you know, for me on the road, I can go boom, 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 and
We
it's
should,
done.
we should get the mail.
Does
they leave
anyone have any
people way out there
objections
to
to this changing?
If you're paying
No.
the bill,
Being at the close of business day?
It takes like 5 days, because you guys aren't set up.
Yeah, but most of the utilities, Atlas and,
Yeah, right.
that, you have till,
The business day.
no, till
Yeah, you guys don't have
midnight to
your banking
pay.
set up
But
correct.
these people,
Well, this-
you're not there at midnight.
It sounds like
On
we need some
Friday, and
financial,
it
free
goes till
financial
Monday.
classes in this.
And then
Yeah,
they
but
will
oftentimes I'll get
go.
online at 8 o'clock in the
But at the
evening.
close of business on that day, there's no reason.
May I give a recommendation on that? Put in, if by mail, close of business that day, if online, payment by midnight, or something like that. I don't know if that's
She's-
But it
correct.
Right.
still runs it over.
I know,
I
but
can't download at midnight though, and our
How does the system work?
It only
doesn't stamp it with a
timestamps,
date?
it timestamps when I download.
If they pay by PayPal, sometimes
They can give me a
Doesn't it?
confirmation.
they can do a
My system
confirmation,
won't.
but sometimes they'll send it PayPal to be mailed out, and we get it 2 weeks later.
Is there a way that we can put in there to account for that? Because I imagine your system's going to change.
Well, you'd have to.
Well, we'd have to change it when the system
Yeah.
changes.
You know,
You can't-
you
you
can
can't-
change
you
it
can't.
then.
When it does though, that's a good idea.
Oftentimes, I don't pay the bills till 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night.
But in this case, this is all mail, so I mean, I understand that. So close of business, by close of business on the 15th, or if it falls on the weekend, which it already says.
Saturday and Sunday, you
If
have
it falls
the
on the weekend,
Monday.
then it's the close of business
The
on
holiday.
the next business
No.
day.
No.
No,
Say if
it's
the
not at the
15th
close
falls
of
on
business on
Thursday,
the 15th.
They got-
People will come in all night long Thursday, make their payment, and then Friday, I have to come in, and they're all considered good.
Well, I would think that's fair.
Now, the 26th, but that's what she's saying, is she's saying the 15th on Thursday by 5 PM.
No, she said
On
Friday.
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 Okay, so Friday. So you're saying if,
She's thinking that you get the 2 days extra to slide it under your door, and you come in on Monday and all those people are still considered good. but
And there's, and I've
honestly, that
seen
ain't
them
the case.
stand at the door on Monday morning for you
It
to
happens.
open up.
It happens.
They want to pay their bill that was due on Friday, on Monday morning. Well, I'm here, you know.
So that was 75
So
late
what
fees
you
that
saying,
should have
Katie?
been.
What I'm saying
5 o'clock,
is,
5 o'clock.
When
on
that
the
day's
15th.
over, it's over at
15th
5
on
o'clock.
Friday.
When she goes home on Friday,
The
that's
15th.
it.
That's it.
Everything's last
But
due.
if the 15th's on a Saturday, then
You
you
do
got.
it Monday.
Then you
You
got
get
till
till
Monday.
Monday. The following business
Yeah,
day.
that's the way it was.
If Monday's a holiday, then you get till Tuesday.
Right.
We don't cut it off at 5.
Huh?
They don't cut it off
They don't cut it
at
off.
5 now.
If it's due the 15th,
if it's worded that way,
So
they're
if-
gonna
if the
think, well, I
15th's
have
on a
until
Saturday,
1 o'clock on
understand,
Monday.
15th's on a Saturday.
You got.
No, she had it the following business day.
On
Yeah,
Saturday.
Yeah, the
That's
trouble
right.
is
If
that
it's due on the 15th, the
So
15th's
if,
Friday,
if,
it ought to be there
the
before.
They'll
15th
come
on
in at 6
Saturday,
o'clock
Sunday,
Friday afternoon.
or
But you don't
holiday, you have
But
the
then
next
But then
business
they'll come in and
day
cuss you.
all the way
till
till 5.
5. Yes, that's
Well,
what
how
I'm
did you
saying.
know?
Because it would give you the
you
same
don't.
rights.
But they said they were in there at 15th.
15th were on
Now,
It's
is
your
that
Friday.
word.
what it is saying?
Yeah, it is, yeah. They can say, hey, I was
And
there at
it's already-
5:15,
it
slid it on the
already
door
states
on Friday.
disconnection.
So you gotta say Friday at 5. And the thing is, it doesn't say Friday at 5.
So that sounds,
We've been,
I'm all right with that.
yeah, close of business on the 15th.
They'll catch
I'm
me every
not.
time, but hey.
I'm not, because if the city's gonna act like a utility company, they need to act like a utility company. Other utility companies give you until
little grace.
8:30 the next morning.
That is true. He's right. And that's the way the city of Mesquite does it too. If the office closes at 5 o'clock, when they walk in at 8:30 the next morning, if your bill's there, they consider it paid.
That's
That's
right.
right, that's right.
They
You're right.
consider it paid.
and that's what we do.
And they consider it on time.
And that's what we're doing
And
now.
it's an unwritten grace period is what it is.
Yeah,
But
100.
And
here's
if
the
it falls
problem
on
with that,
Friday,
is
if the due
say on
date falls on
disconnect.
Friday.
You got till Monday at 8:30.
Monday morning.
We get there at 8, we open the doors at 8:30. If somebody didn't pay their bill, and they're standing at that door when I open, they think they're not supposed to be disconnected.
Because I'm standing at the door.
But that's not how it works. You don't get an entire month and then stand at the door and wait until I open at 8:30. I've already generated a report, I've already made a list, I've already balanced the drawer, disconnects are done. The ordinance reads, as soon as it's deemed necessary, you're considered to be disconnected.
Yeah, I moved, it's done by close of business of that day that it's due.
I say it shouldn't be that big of a deal, it's due by the 15th, it's due by the 15th.
That's right.
I think it is.
I'm fine with that too.
Is everybody good with that?
Because
We got 2 that don't like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm just saying,
I'm just saying,
If it wasn't so abused, it really wouldn't be an issue.
But it don't hurt.
But we
That's
have-
what he's.
that's what I'm saying. It doesn't hurt, and we're
It
talking,
doesn't.
we're
It's
talking,
not
you said,
gonna
what,
process it at
125?
5 o'clock.
Yeah.
We're talking 125 out of over 1,000 accounts.
10%.
That's
10%. You're 10%.
Oh, no, on disconnects, we're talking 400. Oh,
No, it's talking about the people.
320.
But they're both the
On the
same.
15th, I sent out around 300 late notices.
No,
On
but how many-
So
disconnect
you're talking
day,
25% of your entire
How
system, so
many
you're,
is
that's,
not there at 5 o'clock
I couldn't even tell you
and is there by 8:30 the next business day?
a lot.
But what does it cost? That's my point.
What-
Yeah, really, what's the impact is really what he's asking.
What's the financial impact?
Does it cost you extra?
No, it's
but
gonna.
it messes my day up.
If it's
It's a loss
late
of
fees
revenue
and I
and possible
receive
fees is
150
what it is.
payments, that's 10% on 150 payments. So
So you deem it.
we're losing a lot of money if we do wait a whole weekend. People are using that without paying that 10%.
We're not losing anything, we're just not.
You're not-
getting
We're not
it.
charging anything, yeah.
And they're getting extra days, just when it comes on the
Right.
15th.
Say, we got it.
Yeah,
That's what a lot of people in this
I'm
town are
not-
saying.
But they got
As of right now,
almost 30-something days to pay.
Yeah, but see,
we didn't do disconnects this month until
y'all ain't
28.
from
Well,
Alstyne. You don't know how Alstyne used to run. What you doing now is changing that.
Yeah, big,
We gotta
big
look
government,
forward.
big city coming in and trying to make it small town big.
See, all the new vehicles
What they're
this
saying
month,
is
and
pay
they,
the bills
everybody
over
this
the
time
days.
talked to me, said, the city is trying to
Yeah, I
get
just pay my
you.
late
We
fee.
got
But
you.
my days
How
are
many
in
people
until
paid on the
midnight.
15th?
My day's not over.
I don't know. I know, I
Business
know, I
day,
know
yeah,
they
Bill.
can be open
I-
whenever you
I
decide.
said
Yeah,
Bill.
you can't get there until after
I do
the
this
Well, that's not true, I can pay my other bills
Check
online,
gets
I can pay it up till midnight, and it's still considered.
I mean, after all, we're living out here
Exactly,
in a
yeah, that's what I
community,
said, I
and
pay
a lot of
after.
our people draw social security checks.
Okay, so the current, okay, so everybody likes this except for
Yeah.
when the payments are currently due. Everybody likes the document the mayor submitted,
They're closing.
minus when the payments are due.
So they're not due till Monday.
You still
Yeah,
want
did
to keep
her
on telling.
document,
Wait
Give it
just
to
a
them
minute.
before.
If they're not due till Monday,
It's gonna
if they got
Let's not, we, Frank's not having a conversation.
It's on Friday.
So
You
why not?
So if
expect
it's
the money to
due
be there
on Friday, or up till Monday.
No, that's not what I'm saying, sir.
Okay.
The majority of y'all don't like that, so what I'm saying is, everybody likes what the mayor submitted, with the exception
Except-
of the 5 PM due date on the 15th, that y'all would like to see it still extended until
Monday?
before
Yeah.
the door opens at 8:30.
I would
say
think it'd
8
be
o'clock the
fair.
next day.
I would think it'd be fair to everybody.
So maybe it should just
that
be
when they
reprinted.
get there, the first thing they do is go get.
That's exactly what they do, sir.
We do.
That-
well, if that's what you do, then word it that way, and
We
say,
open
yeah,
the
you've got till
door,
8:30
we take
that
the
next
key out of
morning.
the drawer,
Well,
I
maybe
go
not
straight,
that thing.
I straight go to the drop box, I unlock the drop box, I
Before
take
you put the
everything
stamp
in.
on it, change the stamp. If I come in at, say, 8 o'clock, and you there, I hand it to you, and you
Door's
put
locked.
that other day.
Hey.
Doors locked
Yeah.
at 8 o'clock.
It's still locked. When it opens at 8:30, if it
It's
isn't
late.
inside the door, if it's not online paid, if it's,
Then it's
if it's
late.
not in the box,
And I
then
download
if you're
at
standing at the door at
8:30.
8:30, we open that door,
It's
you're
late.
late.
It's late.
That's exactly right.
And I think that's fair.
But see, the thing about it, that front door's got a door slide, they can get it in at
Yeah,
8:30.
they get it in
And
there
it counts.
before
I
8:30.
take it.
That's
By
fine.
8:30,
I think
8 o'clock.
it's-
No
If
late
there's anything
notice.
That's the way it should
If there's
be.
anything still on the floor when she opens that door, it's collected and it's good. But if somebody comes in the door and this is where she
At
gets
9
passed out,
o'clock, well,
is when
it's
they walk in at 8:31,
Now, that's
when
all
the
right.
doors open, or 8 o'clock when the doors open, and they go,
Well, I was
crazy.
waiting out here. I've gone outside to somebody's car and said, are you waiting to make a payment? Yes, and taken their card.
Oh my God.
Gone inside and
Oh
made
my
a
Yeah,
payment to
see, they
avoid.
would've got education from me.
Yeah, I'm sorry, they just had.
Well, but I've been.
She doesn't like to be-
I've
No, no,
been-
you don't
I've been
want-
in the
why don't you
merchant
just
bank
Why
coming
don't
at
you
me,
write that in
cussing
the
at
ordinance
me.
that that's the time?
And it's not good.
8:30 in the morning.
No,
8 o'clock, you say 8 o'clock, is that what it is?
Well, I'm.
8 o'clock.
I believe that's what it says, it's before 8:30.
Yeah, before 8:30.
I would do it before the door is open.
I'll
and
tell you how
8 o'clock.
our open gets in
Before
there.
the door opens.
Sometimes we have to stay in
Before
there.
the open of business.
Yeah, before they open
Before they open
business.
the business.
5 o'clock.
Before they open the business.
That way you don't have any conflict with, the minute that door opens, it's already too late.
Yeah.
That's
The
right.
minute you open the door open, the ordinance says, I can't
Which
help
makes
you.
no sense, because if they're standing there.
And you
waiting
can
to
just
make a
show them the
payment, all they
ordinance,
do is drop it through the
Sorry,
door.
that's
Right now, I do,
Yeah, they
it
come 2 minutes
says,
earlier.
Yeah, come 2 minutes earlier, drop it through the door.
Okay, so
and
then
it's
this
not
one-
late.
Okay.
So it
So-
would read before the
Before
open
8,
business.
yeah, Mayor, before 8:30.
yes, and once
Once what?
this is worded properly, Could it go into an insert
Oh, absolutely.
to go to everybody?
Yeah,
so they
absolutely.
understand?
I think.
Because everybody should be notified of that.
That's exactly right.
change.
So everybody agrees with everything aside from before the open of business?
Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah.
That'd be a good thing for you to put in your letter.
Okay.
So payments
Well,
will
I'll
be
see if I
late
can find space for it.
Why don't you throw that in there?
Yeah.
8 AM the following day of the due date.
They say prior to open, you say
No,
prior
the following day of the due date. I think that's the way they
Prior
say
to
it.
the open of business.
on the following day
On
of
the following day of the
the
due date.
due date.
Right.
15.
Following business, following business.
Following
day.
business day.
Following business day.
Tuesday, Thursday.
Okay.
Because that does have to be worded perfectly.
It has to be
There's
Cause
a
mass
loophole.
the
confusion.
following business day from the due date.
And open the business.
It's open.
No, following business day will say,
Prior to the opening of business.
It's 8 a.m.
Getting that extra 10% out of you.
Yeah,
At
that's
8 a.m.
fair.
Well, that's what
Okay,
I'm
that'd
saying
still be
now.
829.
Just
Yeah.
call them, give them your credit card and they'll do
And
it.
what they saying
Yes.
is they see all them new cars, new police cars, new trucks, new this, and they said the city of Mount Alstyne is trying to get me for that 10%.
Okay, well, they're not seeing what I'm driving.
They gotta get over people, they gotta get over the paranoia factor.
We're talking about utilities. Utilities are in the enterprise fund, and the police cars are in the general fund.
I know that, I always say that, I served enough years to know, but what
All
I'm
right, so
saying,
did,
Frank.
so did the mayor's
is-
thing take care of leak adjustments, or we still gotta cover that? before we do
Okay.
that?
We have a current leak adjustment policy that's towards the back,
Right,
that's,
this one?
yes. That's our current leak policy. The mayor submitted a leak adjustment policy that has Angela Gurley from Sherman up above.
Uh-huh. And she,
What's the difference?
well, one thing is I think that ours should specifically state that these are for underground leaks. When you say I have a leak and you have it in
Inside
the
your home.
sink or the, you know, that you know
left the
you've
water
got,
running.
you left the water running or something.
That's got to make most of the worst leak.
Oh, yeah.
I could not believe, I was I have to tell the story, I was in Dollar General, and I was behind this couple, and this guy said, I want you to know, I have a $600 water bill. And the clerk at Dollar General said, how did you do that? He said, I don't know, they came out and told me it was a leak, I think it's my commode.
Oh,
She said, did you turn the water off? He said, no, and walked out.
He can't, that's against the law.
You can turn the water
turn the
off.
water off on that commode.
What's going on?
He can turn the water off at the bottom. A leak adjustment for that?
Yeah, that's not a leak adjustment, I'm sorry.
No.
Go get a kit, put a new kit in.
And
Those things are only worth, good for 6
Well,
months now
I'm gonna do
anyway.
some searching around, but I think it's the only town that requires the city to come turn your meat off. I'm gonna,
no, I don't
I don't
think
think
so.
they,
I think
that's
so.
like
Yeah, that's,
huh?
That's a state deal.
Yeah, I think that's
Most new
pretty normal.
houses are built with a cutoff valve in between your meter and your house, so you can turn your cutoff valve all you want.
Yeah, I understand that, but houses don't have it.
That's
Don't
right.
have it
A lot
all.
of houses in the old part town that don't have that.
Emergency on-call phone number.
Do y'all like the current leak adjustment policy? Do y'all want to see something? Because keep in mind that there's nothing, for leak adjustments, even if it's been leaking on the customer side, there's no such thing as free water. So the cost has to be absorbed somewhere.
Mr. Kirk, I know
And after the.
I know that I have helped you. so
Yes, you did, but-
You can vouch.
but also
for
ask-
the way we do leaks.
Yes, but I also still disagree with this.
Okay.
After the first sentence, it says, when a customer has experienced a hidden or concealed water leak occurring on their property. And that's usually underground leaks, isn't it, Mr. White?
Yeah, in wall or underground.
It could be in the wall.
Yeah,
Put it in a foundation.
Underground
Yeah,
or
we're found that, we're in the wall.
hidden or concealed, but it doesn't say no sinks or toilets
Yeah.
or this sort of thing.
I mean, really,
Like this guy was saying out there.
but I mean, if it's commode, you can hear it running.
Yeah.
Well, if it's the sink, you're gonna know it too.
But I mean, you'll see it dripping, but what this was actually done was based upon, say, a house that's on a foundation, off of a foundation, and they finally see water running out from under it.
Mhm,
That's a hidden leak from the general
Yes.
public.
yes.
And I mean, that's concealed, unless you go crawling underneath their regular.
Well, I got a slab and anytime water's running, I can hear it in my house.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear it, my walls running,
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, you got a leak, so you'll know.
You know it.
It is,
What do
you
you,
submit a statement, date repairs were completed, address of the property, water utilities account number, brief description of the repairs, and contact phone numbers. It does not say here that you have to have pictures of the leak.
Doesn't say what the adjustment
Proof of
is.
repair comes from the plumber, and it's
Yeah, well, we have
But if you
required
do
it.
your
We have
own,
required it
if you
on-
do your own plumbing, then you're
Yeah.
required for a picture.
Yeah.
But it doesn't say
No.
that here.
We
So
have-
we're requiring something that is not part of our leak adjustment anyway.
Right.
I wrote this, when I got here, we didn't have a policy.
we just did 10% off of water with
Yeah.
proof of repair.
And I mean, even whenever Kurt repaired his leak, he called me and says, you come in, yeah.
Yeah, she called me, I mean, they were very cooperative, but I'd asked, well, what's the policy, written policy? And there wasn't one.
Well, we had a leak also, and we asked, and he said, write it up. And then when we wrote it up and came up, then you asked for a
Well,
picture of
well, I asked
it. We
if I-
couldn't dig it up.
Yeah,
and-
if I could see it.
Their old pipes, we're not gonna redig.
I asked him if he could get that part dug up.
Kurt did.
Yeah,
Well, Jerry
Dug it
didn't.
up.
I dug it up,
Jerry just ran him a new line, didn't he?
No, well, we dug it up, and then he repaired it, and he closed it, so he wasn't gonna dig it up to take a picture of it.
what do you suggest, Kurt?
well, first off, I think the process is too long, 60 to 90 days to review that whole process. I think by the time it's brought to the attention, 15 days, 10,
Have we taken that
15
long? Did
days.
it take that long when we did yours?
No, it didn't take that long, so I'm thinking,
It took a day.
yeah, we did it pretty much the same days.
Okay, problem with that is you got a whole building cycle before you might notice the change, so.
Well, this is where I'm getting to it, but when it's brought to the attention, I think the process typically can be done now, based off of what you're looking at here, first billings or anything else. I don't think it takes that much effort to actually do some comparisons here and have it figured out within 10 days.
The only thing I'd probably say different, and I do have a problem, and on Kurt, we did help him on the irrigation. But there's so many irrigation systems that are leaking, bypassing through the solenoid valves. And I do have a problem, I mean, we've had, Shake can tell you, we've had one customer come in and 4 or 5 different same irrigation leaks. And I think you just got to say, sometimes irrigation is you're gonna have leaks unless you turn it off.
Right.
And I think that should be probably an exemption, is an irrigation leak. I mean, they're not paying, shouldn't be paying, I mean.
If they can prove an irrigation leak, we can comp the sewage.
So do you think you curtail it to 30 to 60 days, or what do you, I mean,
I think 10 to 15 days is all that's needed, but
but it
here's
includes
what
the
the,
billing process? I mean, if, in the.
well, in most cases, when are most people gonna find out that they have a leak?
When you see the
When
water
they get the bill.
flow.
When they get the next bill.
When you get the next bill, okay? Now you're gonna go in and you're gonna, okay, I have a leak somewhere, you're gonna address it. That bill has a leak, now you're gonna fix it. The next bill is gonna have the leak on it too. And this is kind of where I had the problem, is like, okay, can we address this? Well, no, we've already addressed it once. Well, hold on here, we've addressed that bill,
Should
and
continue.
but it should continue because we have a known leak, and it was during this billing process. So my thing is, okay, we addressed that bill, now we need to address this bill, because this is the same leak, it just spans, most often than not, it's gonna
Billing
span 2
cycles.
billings.
Yeah.
2 cycles, that's normal. So it needs to be addressed on both billings, and I would say, being customer oriented here, you look at the averages, if it's established, if it's a first billing, we can come up with something here, but if you have something that you can go back to, like in my case, we can go back 14 years of history of what an average for that month was, and just say, okay, this was your average usage for this time period of the year, we can take a look at that, and we can go with that. Anything above that, we've cut. Now, the water bill, I think, should be charged at whatever, anything above the leak average should be charged at the city usage cost. Definitely not more than the the lowest rate.
And definitely not have any sewer impact.
And it should have zero, you should come back and you should always go back and have zero sewage impact. So you take a cap back to, go back to some kind of cap of 10,000, and you shouldn't be paying anything for that. So I think
you
it
should
should
go back to
address
their
the
average of
sewage.
that month, yeah. And
Or
then
whatever your monthly average is on the sewer, it goes all the way back to that, you don't pay anything on that. But then, so the city's not gonna lose any money if you're paying the leakage at whatever the city cost is.
Well, okay, but the city cost is what's in the rate,
Yeah.
the base rate.
No, the city's not. That's,
There's zero net gain. I mean, unless we find a way to
I'd
get
have-
an auditor
I'd
to
have
go back
I'd
and
have to
figure.
audit all my pumps at the same time.
okay, so we'll say the base, the
At
smallest
the base,
rate.
at the base.
At the base
Yeah,
rate.
the base
Okay.
rate, yeah.
Okay,
The leak-
that's
the
pretty
leak
low.
rate.
And I think that's
So go
fair.
back to the base rate, whatever the base rate is,
Yeah.
on a portion, a portion of that, you go back to the base rate on that.
Yeah,
And that's the
'cause
same on
the-
irrigation too?
And I mean, irrigation, you're talking about an irrigation line?
Most time, it's just like yours, it's solenoid valves.
Right,
They
And
don't
if
shut all the
you,
way, they bypass
Yeah,
them.
I mean, let's take one I can think of is, the HO that runs half mile. They may come in and say, well, I had this leak here and another leak next month here. Well, and the next, another leak on the same irrigation
3
system.
months in a row.
And then we've had that done before. But when you say, well, who'd you get fixed? Well, we had a guy come look at it. And I go out there and stand with the guy that's supposed to fix it. He says, well, I can't touch this because I'm not licensed. Well, what'd you do? Well, I didn't do nothing.
So then what do you credit?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Do y'all require somebody fix the leak?
Nada.
Outside, like a-
Well, I'm gonna tell you another one where the guy had a leak. We notified him that we found a leak on the meter, on the meter read. The dial was just spinning, nobody there. We tell him, 2 months later it goes by, the meter leak is still spinning, and then keeps on spinning for 3 months, and then he wants credit back on the water for 3 months.
There's, in the ordinance, you can be held responsible for negligence, knowingly having a leak and not reporting it. I don't know what ordinance it is exactly, I'd have to look it up. but I-
Well, it's actually, it's part of TCQ too.
I don't think it's over 1,000.
Okay, so under the current policy, you're looking at, process typically take 30 days, and that way we can get it figured out. I mean, because you're talking about getting a bill, if it goes out on the 1st, you get it on the 3rd or 5th or 2nd or whatever, and then,
I'm saying, for the time it's brought to the attention to Shay, okay, 10 to 15 days, business days, get it settled.
So just say a billing cycle.
takes one process usually takes one billing cycle.
Okay.
Can we agree to that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it should be, I think there should be an allowance there for consecutive billing cycles, because basically that leak is gonna span
Two bills.
2 bills.
But isn't that where it says
Some
the?
don't.
Some do, but some don't, but it was like me, how did I find out? Well, as it turned out,
You were in the middle of the month.
I was in the middle of the month, the bill came through, and my wife hadn't looked at it, but then my
That's the
neighbor
reason
says,
I-
hey, your lawn's going psh.
That's the reason I
You guys
wanted to
covered
do
it
it
all.
30 to 60 days, that way it'd take care of any interlap.
So it says the adjustment period may extend up to a maximum of 3 months. Is the adjustment period figuring the leak?
That's
What's
what- yeah.
what's the adjustment?
I guess what I'm looking at is, from the time that it's brought to attention, there should be some credit to the account process within a time. If it happens a
And
second
this is just.
month in a row, I guess,
Okay, because I mean, if you look at like that, is it what, 1, 2, looks like the 4th sentence, the adjustment period may extend up to a maximum of 3 months. So you could have, I mean, I guess the leak wouldn't be identified until, what, 3 months in, or, I mean, is that the way it's?
That's what that's reading.
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
And only one adjustment is made in a 12-month period. So is
now,
that,
see, I had that sort of one adjustment. Now, in my case, it would have been 2 adjustments, right?
wouldn't it be?
It would have been one
Within the 3
situation,
months?
I would have adjusted twice.
Twice. right.
Okay, but that's not clear enough.
But it would have been one
So
incident.
what,
Yeah, or one.
what's gonna, okay, what would make it, what would make that statement clear? The adjustment, or the rate, I mean, or,
The adjustment.
Only
let's
one
see,
incident.
extended.
Yeah, only one incident.
Not one adjustment, for only one leak or something like that.
One incident.
One
One
incident.
incident.
They can-
Why if
One
someone would have
incident.
two leaks, like my sister had? You know, they had one leak, and then 6 months later, another leak. Why would you
Totally separate.
only have to be allowed one if there are two separate and individual leaks?
okay.
Adjustment.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but it's gonna get back to exactly what she's running into.
As far as use and,
Would that be a second
It's
incident
not that
though?
hard to open a Word document and type up a fake invoice and come in and say, I had a leak and I replaced it in my toilet, or I had a
Okay.
leak and it was in my yard.
so the
Toilets
adjustment,
and sinks, to me, those aren't leaks.
Those aren't
That's a
leaks.
maintenance issue.
Yeah, those
Yeah,
aren't covered by
but
us.
this
Yeah.
was under the foundation, under the slab. that-
Right.
And it was,
The dogs
you know,
rolling in.
one side of the house, the other side of the house. It was two separate incidents in 1 year.
so what would, I mean, trying to incorporate what you stated.
Well, it's the same thing, we said the same thing.
Okay, say it again, please.
Says, let's see, the adjustment period may extend up to a maximum of 3 months.
On only one incident.
So the adjustment should be incident?
Yeah, or the one instrument,
Incident
Incident.
adjusted?
adjustment.
Incident?
Adjustment.
You know, I don't.
Only one incident may be adjusted in a 12-month period.
Right, that'd do it, exactly.
I don't know if that's true. I'm not sure if I like the
disagree with
12-month
that.
period,
Well,
because
I
it
mean,
can
it's
happen.
pretty
I mean,
clarified.
if they come in and show, bam, it's an official,
But I mean, if you
Then they
look,
say it's
if you
done,
look,
and then that happens
majority
on
of
the
the
other side or
cities
something.
do not have a leak
No leak
adjustment.
adjustment at all, yeah.
I mean, we're really going out of
Well,
the
I know,
realm.
over in Gunner, they, my sisters, you know, then they had the policy where she was allowed up to 4 months to pay because of the excessive amount of water. You know, it was adjusted, but still there was
Adjustment
a,
period.
Now,
Extended
did she
to 3
accrue like
months.
fees?
no,
See, our
no.
system doesn't do that. There's no, we don't have a way to say you owe $200 because of a leak.
Well, some of the people were saying up to $1,000, and they couldn't pay that.
I would
You
drop
can't
the
pay it all at one time.
No, and we can make payment
But I mean,
maintenance.
Could easily be
I would
$1,000.
say, the adjustment period may
But
extend up to a maximum
if
of
the
3
person who's reading
months
the meter, look at
per
that leak indicator on that
leak
meter.
incident.
And it's
per
been-
incident,
every
per
time.
leak incident.
They should write
And then I
that.
would cross
Per
out
incident.
made
They should go
in
to
a
that
12-month
and say,
period. I
hey,
wouldn't
you
even
may
have that.
Mine needs to be checked.
So what if they
You
have
could have
5?
The
What
only
if they
the
have
only
6?
caveat to that is, you got leaks overlapping that 3-month period, so now you're getting an adjustment on an adjustment that was inconsecutive, that
What if it's
overlapped.
someone who's not actually taking care
Then
of the
change it
problem?
to a 2-month period.
Well, I mean, you can have as many leaks as you have, but the only thing you gotta be careful of is you're getting leaks within the
Tell you guys,
overlapping
what
period.
you're gonna end up doing is you're starting to talk about such a small fraction of things that actually ever happen,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that
But
it's not
when it
worth it. You gotta
happens-
be careful not to try to govern down to the smallest decibel. Because when that happens, it starts to become a pain in the rear.
So
Most places
just
don't even
leave it
have a
as
leak
an-
adjustment
An
policy.
incident and not say in a 12-month period.
Yeah,
Okay.
per incident?
Yeah.
The trouble is, well, yeah, I mean,
Qualified incident.
So y'all modify, I mean, okay, so,
And
They're
you
just
say
saying
that
it's-
Steve or some of his boys gotta come out there and
Has to
check.
be
For a leak incident.
and not
I mean, we
something
look,
to do,
most times
not
we'll find
something
them on
limited.
a dial indicator, whatever. If we want to turn water
Yeah,
on,
basic.
do a return on,
How?
nobody's there.
If I'm clear, y'all are just saying an incident, no time limit, no amount of incidents.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
that's not what I'm saying.
it's my discretion. If you come in 4 months in a row telling me,
I've got a leak.
I've got a leak, I've got a leak, I've got a leak, I have the discretion to say, I'm sorry.
I'm
I've
telling
done
you,
all that I
man,
can do
you
for
can
you.
get somebody who would abuse that policy and cause you guys a whole lot more work that you're not getting compensated for. And any uncompensated work just falls back to a negative on the budget line, and that's a bad idea. I'm telling you, you know, listen, you're giving somebody, okay, if you wanna make it 2,
So
I'm
you're
fine with
saying
2. But listen, if you wanna tell somebody you can have 12 leaks a year and we're still gonna allow you to, you're an idiot. You can't do that. You gotta put some number there. I don't care whether it's 3, 4,
I
5.
think 2 would be fair, because if it goes past.
Yeah, I mean, I can see 2.
Then
You
it's
have
being
4 or
that
5
negligible.
incidents in a year,
and
you
they're
need to
not
have something done.
Absolutely.
If you got an irrigation system and you already seen 1 or 2 leaks, you need to go ahead and pull the system out and redo it.
Okay. So you're saying 2 leak incidents per 12 months?
Okay.
Yes.
I think I'm fine with
A
that.
rolling consecutive 12
Well,
months.
Okay, yeah, rolling, you can say you're 12 months, right?
The incident adjustment period may extend up to a maximum of 3 months. Is that
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Is that what we said? And then only
Two
and only
incidents.
2
Incidents in a
Incidents, not
rolling
adjustments,
12-month
but
period.
incidents.
Incidents in a rolling
2
12-month period.
incidents is in a 12-month period.
In a rolling 12-month period. yeah.
Rolling, okay.
So if it starts in February, they have until the next February to have their second one.
Their second, third,
That way it
their
works.
third one.
Okay, I'm reading.
I got 2 days left to have a leak.
Yeah, you gotta find the one guy who does that.
I was reading
We have one.
the adjustments for leakage for Howe, and they have, the amount of the adjustment will be 1/2 the number of gallons above average times the amount per 1,000 gallons.
Now,
Is that, how is ours?
I lived in Howe, or I still live in Howe, and they couldn't determine an average after they did the rate change there. And I lost around 30,000 gallons on a main break under my house.
Mhm.
Guess what? I got nothing. I paid
You pay for the whole thing.
You
No
take the whole
extension, no grace period, no payment plan, suck it up, pay it,
You have
or
to
you're
pay
off.
sewer,
All of it,
sewer charge too.
yes. They helped me zero.
They don't
How
have,
many
a
gallons did you
And
use?
their rates?
I've got the rates here.
they don't have, yeah.
No, no cap. And
You
they're,
had to pay something.
my bill, I use 3,500 gallons in Howe. My bill's
That's not right.
$125 a month.
That's
Here,
just wrong.
it'd be
They don't want more
$88.
So
All
before
right,
you
on
get
the- how the adjustment is calculated, we've got on number 1, an average usage is determined by reviewing the account history,
3 months before the
What is
leak,
that?
correct?
Yeah.
3 months, up to 3 months.
Adjusted period may extend
Maximum.
up to a maximum of 3 months.
So 3 months from the current time.
And
3
only
months
The
after
average-
you're gonna-
They come in and tell
The
me.
average usage costs are calculated according to the applicable rates, or what did, was that where the base rate was?
The base rate.
Base rate.
The lowest
Okay.
base
Yeah,
rate.
those guys
Because that keeps you from getting into that $9.
$2.50.
You go back.
Yeah,
Okay, so lowest-
or 1,000 number when, you know, and honestly. it's-
Right, lowest
You didn't
rate.
know.
Excess usage, all usage above the average is then calculated at the lowest rate of the current rate scale.
Yes.
Okay, so, and
And I-
where did you want sewer exempt? Where was that gonna fall in?
And I would say, right there as a sewer example, if you would come in, I'd come in, you could make an easy calculation, anything above 10,000 gallons.
Yeah,
Or something
yeah.
like
Why
that.
not
Make
just,
it
why not just use the same figure that the lower rate kicked in?
That's
Cut it
the
right there.
average.
Cut it right there.
right
Yeah,
there.
come right there at that average, that's
Yeah,
a figure average.
right there, it says sewage gets cut off at their average rate.
Right.
At the historical.
Yeah, the
Don't
historical
tell the
average.
first person
Historical
that has a
average.
leak, whenever I have to do this the first time.
In Sherman, it is estimate the amount of the average, adjust the 2 highest billings for the leak period by 50% of the estimated loss. Customer pays
We're not
1/2
doing that,
of the
we're
water.
beyond that.
That's a lot of
Adding
math,
water
yeah,
there.
you're on.
That's Sherman, right?
At Sherman, that's how they do theirs.
It's a lot more math.
Okay,
Let it go.
I think
It is.
we've addressed everything.
Yeah,
I
but see,
could be
they
wrong.
go with the article in the section.
One other thing that was
Yeah, where they
asked by
got-
council to address
They actually
was a
have-
refund.
Yeah.
And that was for the way it was implemented, okay? We got a preliminary we got a preliminary estimate that said, we haven't done all the accounts. But the preliminary estimate is around $55,000, okay? To be able to credit all the accounts back, we're gonna need several months to be able to do that. So, y'all,
But we're,
the college or the high school.
say it again?
The high school hasn't responded. We don't have anybody from the college responding that can help with the Excel spreadsheet.
What is the only help for?
Well, we have to rebuild everybody's account for their consumption for that month, and then we have to go back and
And do the rate- and do the
recalculate
rate.
Calculate at
exactly
the
by the
old
old
rate.
rates.
calculate the new rate and refund the
It's a charge.
difference.
Refund the differential.
It's not just refunding the difference, we have to issue a credit to the water side and the sewage side
Right.
of every customer, so ultimately, like, 1,366 customers, twice. So will take an entire weekend of 4 or 5 people sitting at each of our computers issuing into every account, because our system doesn't do that.
Yeah.
You can keep mine.
Okay,
I'll
so,
knock that one off.
Well,
so, but are we talking June, May, or June? We could have that done by?
We don't have anybody to help build the spreadsheet.
Okay, I mean, the high school didn't respond, we're contacting the college.
But we're working with the college. We don't have-
That's what Mr. Gibbons is.
I can help.
Calling.
Actually,
I can help.
I mean,
if
it
that's
depends on what's decided
The
here
problem
first.
with
I
this-
guess just
Go ahead.
figure out whether
something- if it's gonna be done.
it's affordable or to do it, or, what's the expected cost?
Well, there's
in doing
a few
this.
other things that kind
It's,
of play
it's
the
all
factor
overtime
too.
in my budget.
It'll be all overtime on me. But we closed accounts during that month.
So we have to
We
go back and
issued
check.
refunds to people on that month. I mean, there's so much more to just giving somebody their money back. There's much more. I have to track down everybody that took a refund, recalculate their final bill, recalculate their checks, pull checks back, general ledgers get involved. I mean, this is more than just,
Yeah, it's not.
But
just
you're only,
go
we're not
back and look
talking
at it
money
different.
here, we're talking about a refund on their water bill.
So I'm gonna spread it back.
so.
Dan, why don't you just do a flat credit to
Oh,
everybody?
I was
and
gonna
say,
say,
here's,
yeah,
here's $20 in the month of August
We
this
took-
year, we're gonna give you back
30
on water.
days.
I took
No,
this,
that's not what the people signed in that petition. They wanted the refund.
what,
Well,
I divided this
And I agree, and
up
I'd like the
between the
refund more than anybody because mine's a big refund.
Yeah.
But,
But
you
the
know,
cost that this is gonna,
yeah.
Well, it's a lesson learned.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I
And
honestly
sometimes the
think,
best thing you can do though is make an apology.
Yeah, I mean, I
Make it
think-
right as best you can and move on.
yeah, I think the council would have been better had they just said, listen,
Admitted
We
to it.
did wrong.
we screwed up in the way we brought this
Screwed
thing
up,
out.
That's right.
And instead of doing that, they perpetuated by acting like a bunch of nerds up there and not just saying, hey,
Exactly.
we screwed up.
and I
You
said
know,
that
and we didn't fix it really in a very fast way either, right? I mean, if they go back in this next council meeting and they get the rate adjustment done, they get the way this stuff, and we say, listen, this won't ever happen again, I think you're gonna make most people are
Most
gonna,
people will be happy.
you know, listen, we all pay, I mean, and I pay. I mean, my water bill is $800, I think, right at it. So, I mean, I know how much it was, I'm just saying that,
Average?
how much did you
I
say?
average, just based on the rough estimate we have right now, 53,453 divided by 1,366 people,
Is
it's about 35.
$39.13.
Yeah.
Yeah, but some are going to get,
Very
more
little.
than they,
So,
Okay, now, but,
$40
but
to
like
everybody
he's saying
to
though,
people are
do you
coming.
want to get into, most people get less than that? Some people get a lot more than that?
yeah.
Some people
Is
just
it
didn't
worth?
change
Some people, yeah,
You're
some people
talking-
didn't pay anything.
You're looking at probably hitting my budget anywhere from 15 to 25,000.
Would you
Just,
say
Was your
1,000 what?
budget including it
Yes,
being
but-
red price?
She's in my budget.
I'm water.
right, you know, what I'm saying though, is if you gave a flat refund, that's not impacting anybody's budget. Because that's not a big deal, that's you just
I can
saying,
adjust.
listen, this is gonna be an adjustment for everybody, we're taking $20 off.
I mean, the refund is not gonna be out of my budget,
Right,
but the getting
But
to that
no,
point,
yeah,
right, but come on, like I said, if you
I
could,
think we did wrong, and I think that it has to be rectified.
so I think you rectify it by, one, doing the right things you're doing on the bill, right? So you're not gonna have that problem again. You're gonna fix the problem of the rollout by not allowing you to roll bills out that way anymore, right? So we're gonna do that.
Yeah.
The other thing is just gonna be, and yeah, the other thing I think is, it makes sense, is to just say, listen, here's some money back, and everybody, you know, because my guess is, most of the biggest part of your constituents, their bill didn't change a ton, it's the people on the high end that got the whack.
Yeah,
And-
and some of them just can't afford that. I just don't think it's
well, that's why it's
fair.
gonna be fixed going forward, so they.
Yeah.
That's why we.
Sometimes you can't go back and fix the past.
I will tell you that most of those people on the high end that got whacked probably will survive.
That's why we need.
That's just my
the-
gut feeling.
The statement, their
Yeah.
intent. to
And I don't
change
think
the
you
rates.
refund any commercial entities.
but if you'll,
Commercial
there's
entities-
only,
That's just my
they-
feeling.
Only
this
one
We don't-
commercial
statement of
entity
intent.
Here, we don't
to
distinguish
change the
between the
rates,
two.
right?
If I
Yeah,
understand-
yeah, you're right, we don't.
We
Yeah,
don't
you're right.
distinguish between the two,
The
right?
council gets the vote, final vote on this, right?
Yes, but also, read the last sentence from what Mr. Gibbons wrote. And you're right. If the council had said, we are wrong,
We
we
made
were
a
not
mistake.
aware of this,
Screwed up.
we really meant, and he
Yeah, they
said,
set up there like a bunch of
Just saying-
palm
yes,
videos.
but
Like
they
you
didn't.
did.
And
You
it
know,
says,
you-
the last sentence is, it may be better to apologize for the way it was done and change how it will be done going forward. The water is already under the bridge, so to speak. If they adopt the statement of intent to change the rates, they will change the way that that is done, and it will not happen again because they'll have to notify every customer.
You guys, I think if you do a flat rate refund, it's also a way of knowing what that refund dollar value is gonna be right off the bat. I mean, you'll know, listen, we're giving everybody $20 back. Or we're gonna say, listen, we're gonna give you $5 for 3 months in a row, or $5 for 4 months in a row or something.
Well, we have 430 people who signed a petition who
Want a refund.
And
want
you
to
know
refund.
what? You're right. And I
I signed
also
that
signed
too.
that petition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting here, as we've sat here and worked through this for the last 3.5 hours, that's gonna be near impossible.
And I'm sure if we went and
And then
asked for
we-
petition signatures
And,
again, it
and
would
I'll be
change.
honest with you, I signed the petition because I was upset about the way that it was done with the rollback effect. I had no problem with the water rate increase. I had no problem with new fire trucks and stuff being bought, because I can tell you this, if I'm going to Baylor and McKinney, I don't want the stinking ambulance breaking down and me dying in the middle of Anna. The point
come
is, okay, maybe just not the mentally listen, because they'll give me a ticket for it. Is that on camera?
It's on camera.
The point is, we're here fixing the problem, and we're asking the council to take the recommendations that we're making to them to rectify the problem and let them go from there. Because you know what, it doesn't matter, if you go back and roll it back and you repay everybody, there's still gonna be 200 people that are gonna be mad about it, even though they've gone back and tried to fix it. You can't fully rectify the problem and make everybody happy. You can't. You can't. We do the best job that we can. We ask the city council and we ask the city to roll forward and do the best job they can going forward, because you can't change the past. Even with the dollar amounts.
I second that.
They're gonna spend more money trying to rectify the problem than just giving a flat rate increase.
Yeah, we're gonna end up losing money.
You know, and the fact is, that's gonna end up costing all of us more in the long run
Exactly.
anyway.
Spend 15,000 to equally distribute 52,000.
That's
When
exactly.
you can do it economically and be fair and
Exactly.
being economical at the same
Exactly.
time.
And in all
Exactly.
honesty, the people that are on the low end of the usage are probably gonna get back more
Then they actually
than
pay
they
it.
actually
pay
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah.
It'll be the people that are the high users, they're gonna say, hey, we got something back. It was admitted, it came
I
in a
didn't
apology.
think we were gonna get anything.
That's exactly right.
Right.
That's right.
That going back with a letter, like she was saying, in their bill.
Yeah, I'm just saying, listen, we know we screwed up in the way this thing was rolled out. These are the things we're gonna do in the future not to let that happen again.
That's right.
You know, I think if you do that, give some people a credit, you're gonna move past all this, which you could have done had you not,
Admitted it.
yeah,
Yeah.
that just kind of falls on your sword right off the bat.
Instead of saying,
You know what?
y'all
It's the inability to fall on the sword that's caused all the heartache.
Sometimes that's all it takes for some people.
The purpose for that, all those signatures on that petition wasn't necessarily for a refund, it was for this right here. For this.
Well,
So this discussion will
It's a
take place.
combination.
Well, and it was,
What it
yeah.
was,
At the
if
time.
they made a mistake, they wouldn't own up
And the
to it.
refund
That's
was
pretty much what that man
Lynn-
said.
Lynn,
That's
what-
why I had 2 months ago.
Lynn, what were you trying to say there?
Meter, that using the same way that the rate is calculated?
The
Lynn?
night.
Okay, to being the real numbers geek that I am,
Let's go.
okay, if we
Is
split,
this gonna be direct or you gonna
yeah,
be?
this is direct, this is
It's
just,
it's not 30.
same way the water rate, the base rate is calculated based on the,
Same way you told me.
same way the base rate is calculated for the different size meters, there's an equivalency factor for one. So everybody with a 3/4 inch meter gets a $32 rebate. People with a 1 inch meter get an $80 rebate, And it's all proportional, same way that we figured the rates out. And
Well, they have a 1-inch meter.
yeah,
Yeah.
and all the way up to the 3-inch meters.
What's mine?
3-inch meters get $476.70 back.
On irrigation.
I mean, it's the same way the rate's calculated, it's the same way you're gonna
Oh, man, it killed me
redistribute.
that month, I'll tell you, that hurt.
There you
And
go.
that's
It was physically
So
painful.
what's your recommendation based off of what you just said?
Well, I mean, I'm asking, that would be
Here we go.
a proportional way to do it for, because the people who have 2- and 3-inch meters, the apartment complex, only get $31 back, and they've got all that water usage. Here, they're gonna get $252 of credit,
Would that be easy?
because they are
They would be
fixed.
very happy.
Okay.
Would that be-
So is it feasible to do
How do
that?
we go?
Is that a feasible thing then?
Yes, that
It
is
is?
easy for me
Okay,
to
so-
apply.
Okay.
So you can go back and you can look at who.
If I have a flat rate, all I have to do is.
Based off of
And
meter
apply it
size?
to a meter size, you can do
I
that.
can
okay.
apply to it.
Now, can
Does
you
that-
wait
does
for
that
the
sound
bill
agreeable?
So it don't affect me so much on this new rate?
Does that sound agreeable?
I'm good with that.
I'm very agreeable with that.
Yeah.
Everyone agreeable with that?
Well, okay, the difference is,
I think it's fair and it's doable.
yeah, on the 3/4-inch meter for most houses, you're given $31.78 back instead of $39.13, so there's about an $8 differential, but you're spreading it equally.
Which is the way it was charged.
Which is the way it was charged.
I think that's fair.
That's very fair.
I think it needs to be on the bill somewhere, that we started and we made it.
Yeah, I was
That's
gonna,
what I'm saying.
Well, I think, no, it just needs to be a letter from the council saying, hey, look, we
Yeah.
want it.
made-
And we
And
can
here's
put
our
it inside
attempt,
of it.
here is our attempt.
That's right, the rectifier.
here's what we did to rectify
Signed by the 3 council members who voted for
it.
it.
Sure, yeah, whatever, yeah, signed by the whole council.
Yeah, signed by all
The
of
whole
them.
council.
I'm gonna have to take my newsletter and have the whole council sign it again.
But y'all are still in the same council.
But you're still in the same council.
You're still on the same council.
Yeah, I'm.
You do things
I'm
that they-
for it, but I want also in the building, apology from City Hall.
That's gonna come.
Yep,
Okay, that's gonna come from the mayor.
that's City
okay.
Hall.
About time you.
And I don't even get a vote.
City Council.
You don't like the meter rate size refund?
No, I don't like the apology from the council, because I didn't vote for it, and I very vehemently protested.
But you're a
No,
part,
no,
you're a
but
part of what's going forward
Yeah, but
though.
you're a part of the explanation for,
They
listen,
see
we,
that you're
the
making it
the
right.
council.
No, what it is you are really, we, the elected officials are the representatives of the city,
City.
along with
That's
the
right.
city manager, who is responsible for the daily running of the city, but who does not have a vote on the
Listen, I think I would
It
just
got
throw
passed
Frank
as a
under the
full
bus and move
integral
on.
entity, so.
Exactly.
It should have the.
That he shouldn't even propose this.
Absolutely, I would blame this all on the city manager, and then all the council members should sign it.
It's twice charged. Did anybody recognize
That's
that
twice charged?
What's the price charge?
on the water rate?
Back bill.
The back
Back
bill,
bill,
yeah.
back bill.
It wasn't twice
That's
charged.
how it was done
No,
last year.
to be honest with you, I mean, we went off the way it had historically been done. It doesn't mean that it's right. Of course, nobody thought it was right because that's the way it went. Of course, we had the 18 to 22% increase the year before. It was implemented the same way. Did it again this time. We got the reaction we got.
But it was the way the rates were done.
Yeah.
Because of what?
Larger increase.
It was a larger increase.
For the larger consumer.
Still, it implemented October 1st, but it went back and got the 30-day billing
It was 45 days.
mid-August. No, ma'am, it was 30 days. It went back and got the middle of August through
15
the middle,
August to 15
the middle of September, and then you had our rereads and everything that was concerned. It was a 30-day consumption cycle, and then the 15 days to get all the rereads and everything done, put the bills together and send them out. Did we see that that was going to happen? No. Otherwise, I wouldn't have advised council to do this. I mean, it didn't. No, we went off historically, how it's historically done. We have a new billing process in place to notify everyone, to where you'll get your personal letter. Everybody will get their personal letter stating exactly what we're working on, that we're in the middle of budget workshops. Please attend. Here are the dates. We're implementing the new rate schedule. Here again, we do the 30-day notification that y'all want to recommend to council. Have this in mind. This is what I've got in mind. It doesn't take place until the November 1st billing. But what does that do? it's gonna go back and it's gonna grab September 15th through October 15th, okay? I just know that's what's gonna happen, and but we'll budget it out on an 11-month
So
cycle.
that's why the 60 days was recommended with TCEQ and all the other organizations. There's two different ones, the one that the mayor had and one that I have, that said 60 days.
Okay.
Well, but that's
The thing about it is, if we can,
different
the more,
types of entities.
it's fine
that
if
don't
y'all
have-
do January 1st, but what I'm telling you is, whatever we agree on, you're gonna compress it to where, when the rate does take place, when you compress it, it's gonna make it to where the money grab is up, to make that revenue, to make sure we handle our expenses.
But I still-
Otherwise, the liability falls on the council, and we don't want that.
But see, that's what I'm saying now, Frank. It
Yes.
needs to be brought to the people, because the council work for the people, and you work for the council.
Sir, it was. We had 2 months' worth of workshops.
But we didn't know nothing about it, I didn't know nothing about it.
And I understand that, but y'all were on the council for quite a while. Most people don't know that. But, you know, historically, we're working on a budget during the summer. We put it on, again, we put it on the website. You don't have a computer.
Nope.
We put it in the paper. I guess you don't get the paper.
No.
You know,
I don't.
I just see it in front of diamonds when I walk in.
so we had it on the marquee up front. We had it on the glass up front.
You had a heads up on different places in this town saying the water bill is gonna go up.
No, he's talking about the
No.
workshop.
And then all the workshops.
Like I said,
We were
like I
recording all
said, the
workshops.
comparisons
You can
weren't,
watch them on
yeah, the
YouTube.
comparisons must not have been very good either. I said the comparisons must not have been very good between the previous bill and what they thought was gonna go out on the other bill. Because my guess is, when she sends the bill out, she probably looked at some of the numbers and went, this
She
ain't
had me go reread some.
Yeah, she said, this ain't gonna fly. And I can tell you, if your billing clerk understands that, then the council should have understood that before they sent those bills out. And that was probably, those mistakes shouldn't be made. And, you know, somebody should have figured that out before that bill went out. And like I said, my guess is you saw it going out, knowing the next day, listen, man, I'm gonna spend all day on the phone.
Oh,
At least,
I
I'm
think
sure.
I asked her.
What I'm
police
getting at,
protection.
Frank, is so many people in this town wouldn't come for a budget workshop. 80 and 90-year-old people, they're not gonna come up there. So it ought to be something sent out to them in the mail, like.
And
That's why now he's got
About the budget workshop.
Yes, sir.
It came out in the Van Alstyne.
Sure
paper.
did.
That's it. People are welcome to come, but they can't say anything. That's
It
wrong.
did. It did.
That was published in the paper.
That's right.
Yeah, it does
What
say
you
that.
saying to
It
us
does- it
is
did
y'all
say
have no
that.
input and you work for us. That's what you
Again,
said to all
that's
people.
bad
I'm
PR.
not saying you
Huh?
told them to do that. I'm saying that was published.
That's right.
So
That's
what he's
more
saying
like
is
the
going
legal
forward, let's
document.
not do that, is what he's saying.
Well, I tell you one thing, a lot of people got upset really about that, saying that you can come to the meeting, but you gotta keep your mouth closed.
That's why they were afraid to even come to the one at the college and that, because they thought, what good does it do
The
if you
idea
can't
was-
say a word?
The idea was for council to look at the budget work, to attend the budget workshop, provide their input unhindered, and that way, after the budget workshop was over, you could approach your council members. Because nothing was decided for 2 months, nothing was decided up until the end of September. So there was plenty of time to attend these workshops, approach your council members.
But Frank,
So it's all in how you say something, so instead of,
Sometimes it
you
is.
won't be able to say anything, we should have said,
Discussion
you'll
at
get
the end of the
discussion
meeting.
at the end of the meeting. That would be a
no,
better way
the
to
people
do it.
ought to have discussion in the meeting, because
No,
that's where all the work for.
No,
They gotta get the,
They gotta get their budget done.
Yeah, they gotta get it out.
They got work to do, and you will just drag that whole process out. They need to do what they need to do, and then
Then the Q and A's.
and after they have heard and seen everything happen, then they can have the Q&A, and they can take and provide input, because nothing's decided there. There's gonna be more work being done.
I don't think nothing ought to be decided unless the people know what's going on.
But
Well,
that's,
why
that's
they all
that's
work
what he's
out.
saying.
That's what
but wait,
that's what he's
wait a
saying.
minute, wait a minute. But that's what you have public hearings for.
Right.
People come to public hearings.
Too late.
No.
Public hearing on budget, too late.
That's right.
Council's already made the mind.
And we can do discussion following the workshop.
Huh?
I mean, we can do discussion following the workshop. I mean, there's nothing wrong.
Yeah, I think that's what I do. I'd open the,
But
I'd
there
open
are
the
also
discussion up
public
after the
hearings
workshop's
for
done.
setting the rate and setting.
It all makes sense
Yeah,
that
give
way.
30
Yeah,
minutes
but
or separate
But
meetings.
they already made the mind.
Well, they've been through the workshop. Yeah, if you haven't been to the workshop, you don't understand what they're considering
Very.
at that point.
I mean, that come out.
All that is just reporting at that
Is
point.
that a refund?
Yeah, that's what everybody.
I'll tell you one
Okay,
thing, it's definitely
I went
changed.
around and Karen and I talked. and
Because
then
we
got
used to
on-
not do anything
Um,
without the people kind of knowing about it, it got around
Okay,
town.
I think we've got
Before-
everything addressed. Is there anything extra? Mr.
Yes,
Flannery
I've
has
got one
something?
question for Shay. I'm gonna use my household as an example on this name change, death of the spouse. We've been through this with my mother-in-law and my mother, and I've learned a way around it. And is the city capable of doing this? I'm sure my account only had my name, which my account with Montar Gas only had my name. When it became Atmos, my wife tried to make a change, they wouldn't do it. So I called and said, how many names can you accept? They said, well, we accept what you tell us. So I put her name, my kid's name, and my in-law's name. Can you do the same?
On every account, one, if anything happens to anybody, and they pass, your spouse, your children, whoever can bring your death
No, without a
certificate.
death certificate.
You just want them to be able to have
Yeah,
that full on
no,
access.
I want them to be able to call today and have my water cut off.
You can put whoever's name on there you
Okay.
want.
Okay.
Anybody can.
Because
You
I know
have to be
my
the one that does it
account
though.
has got my name on it.
If it's in your name, you have to be the one that says,
Puts the other
Shay,
name on it.
I want to add my
Right. But you can put more than my
da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
wife's name.
I'll take that piece of paper, scan it in, attach it to your file. They have
Because
access
that
to it.
gets to be a headache if it comes home to you.
I've had it.
Yeah.
We've
You
had
know,
it more than once.
I can add anything to our bills, but I cannot take anything off because it's in my husband's name.
Right.
But they'll let me add it
What
to
bill?
it.
Jerry did that for protection.
On what bill?
Too bad. I had it changed.
On what bill?
What bill?
I can't remember now, but I called and I wanted something removed from our account, and they would not remove it. But
Without
I
Jerry
can
saying so.
add,
That's not like
anything.
right.
That's exactly what it said.
I am with Verizon coming through.
I appreciate everybody, I appreciate everybody's input, being a participant.
And my dog.
This has been helpful. Thank you.
All I ask y'all is, please, let the people know. That's what I get. You know, let the people know what y'all doing.
Yes, sir.
Because I served a long time, and I work for the people. I look at my city council, is the people hire me to do the job. That's all I have to know.
Senator,
Listen to the people.
Mike, I need that book.
I'm going to add